Does he have it?
Medeiros is going to get it. They're going to toss it.
They haven't got it!
He's on the outside line though, going into the fastest corner on the circuit. Surely this can't work.
Dominic Ligner has got a sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly, Miller's still start trouble. He's not on second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Can Barry do it? Big Barry's going to do it. Big Barry!
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever you may be in the world, and welcome to round number 7 of the virtual World Sportscar Championship, and we're at Watkins Glen for this round. 60 laps of the Glen Amdam-Pepels, and I'm joined in the commentary booth by Steve. Steve, welcome in. Excited for this one?
Yep, looking very much forward to it. Not getting to race in the 6 hours Glen and I racing this weekend, so I'm looking forward to watching this 60 laps here. It's going to be epic. It's a multi-class race and they always throw up a lot of drama.
3.45 miles long, this circuit, that is 5.55 kilometers, was built all the way back in 1956. It's quite a long time ago for a track like this, and it does show. It is a very bumpy track, a very tricky track though, but definitely a round that we can't miss on this calendar. Let's hop to the calendar then. Here we see it. Round number 7. We've had Daytona, we've had Portimao, we've had Sebring, Long Beach, Spa, and of course the most recent one, Le Mans. 60 laps here today at Watkins Glen. The round afterwards we have at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. 60 minutes, just like Monza, Road America and Fuji. And Indianapolis, then we have 2 odd ones out, and we finish the championship with them. Road Atlanta with 100 minutes on the 21st of October, and then we finish off the championship at Bahrain on the 11th of November. Well, looking at the championship then, it's an interesting one. 116 points for Eugene Mazur. Stefan Miller following him closely on 94 points. Even closer to that is Peter Meyer on 90 points. Then we have Matt Boos on 72, followed by Felipe Marazzi on 69. Mike Boos on 62. Of course, those 2 drivers forming Trash Panda Racing in the Lamborghini Huracan Evo 2 GT3. 94 points for them in the team championship. Ed Jones is in 7th, ahead of Tom Monchoy, Adam Gray. Greg Pullen rounds off the top 10 for the GT3 AM class. Stuart Barge in 11th, ahead of James Balders in P12. Vinicius de Oliveira in P13. Josh Lipetri in P14. Graham Duncombe in P15. Stefan Boos in P16. P17 for Roland Hagenaars. P18 Francisco Costa. Larry Thomas in P19. Wes Deer in P20. And rounding off the 21 strong field in the GT3 AM class is Gino Bardelli. Looking on then at the GT3 Championship, Vasilis Katernakis on 120 points, leading the way in that Acura NSX GT3. Jamie Zalecki in 2nd on 93 points. Quite a big gap between those two. Those two also leading the team championship with Stardust Autosports. Of course, both drivers in the Acura NSX GT3. Johnny Gutierrez in 3rd, ahead of Brandon John. Those 2 drivers, 7 points separate them. That Nissan GTR Nismo GT3, lovely car to look at and to drive in. Luciano Echazo in 5th, ahead of John Maher in P6, Vinicius Gonçalves in 7th, Becchini in P8, Elisio Neto P9, JT Tammy in P10, Sashin Sobers in P11, Brendan McVie in P12, Yuki Takanashi in P13, Matthew Marlowe P14, and 15th is James Walker. 16th is Justin Silvestre, Dale Carter P17, Chris Brown in P18, Mike Olsen in P19, and Alec King rounding off the top 20. Then we have 6 drivers after us: Luis Lemos, Williams Novak, Mac Sunderlab, Adrian Rice, Lewis Stephens, and Steve Wood rounds off this 26-strong field. Looking on to the Hypercar AM class then, Philippe Henrique is leading the way there on 125 points, closely followed by both Guilherme Benche and Wayne Hutchinson on 121 and 119 respectively. Barry DeMarzo also closely following those two on 115. William Miller in 5th, ahead of Maximilian Putravki in 6th. Koen Carling in P7, Robert Strachan in P8, Oliver Newman in P9, and Bristol Gorpy rounding off the top 10. Aaron Clark and Diego Rodriguez round off the 12-strong field for Hypercar AM. Hypercar Pro then, Daniel Kirby leading the way there on 125, ahead of John Ewan on 117 points. Maya Rose closely following that on 102. Tom Lane in 4th, ahead of Timon Suvik in 5th. Ross Smith in 6th. Brandon Sellers in 7th. Walter O'Brien in 8th. And George Angelidis in 9th. 10th, Brian Hall. 11th, Magnus Dahlgren. Kyle Vessa in P12. Alexander Schultz, P13. Jason Whitehead in P14. Cameron Barker, P15. Gilles Lalonde in 16th. 17th, Concas. 18th, Jerry Chan. Eric Monnier in P20, and Norm Graff rounding off the top 20. Jeffrey Ellis, Matthew Overton, Joe Foles, Mike Bell, Angus Strong, Sander Tolman, Ben Borman, Adrian Rice, and Bruno Baggiola rounding off the 29-strong field for the Hypercar Pro class. Then quickly to the teams. We've got 8 of them in this class. CMS Pro leading the way on 192. Well, leading convincingly over the Team Rookie Monsters on 96 points. HPD on 77. SKS Motorsports on 68. Storm Rider Racing on 16 points. Dogs and Kiwi Racing, it's quite a funny name, on 14 points. In 6th, Smile Power Racing in 7th. And in 8th, it's Idos Motorsports on 2 points. You've listened to me ramble on for quite a long time, but we're not done yet. We go to the tires before we bring in Steve. The soft, the medium, and the wets for the Hypercars, and the GTs have the soft, the mediums, the hards, and the wets available to them. The challenges on this track is something that Steve can tell us a lot about. I've heard you've driven it quite a lot lately.
Yep, I was doing a lot of practice this week for the Watkins 6-hour Glen, all to no avail. Not going to be racing in it regardless anyway, but traffic management is the big thing around the Watkins Glen, especially in a multi-class race like this. It's very, very difficult to get around these GT3 cars. They are slow in the corners compared to the Hypercars, and the Hypercars are going to have to be patient and pick their moments to get past. However, that can cause its own problems if you're in a fight. And earlier this week, in some of my iRacing races, it's been very entertaining in terms of watching a GT3 cars battle and then seeing the Hypercars come up behind them and they're also in a battle. It very quickly becomes a recipe for disaster. We have got a mixed weather, but we're not likely to see much weather here today. Only a 15% chance of rain, and these fuel strategies are going to be tyre strategies as well are also going to be a big mix-up there as well, as sometimes taking those extra tyres doesn't really help you much in the race because of that traffic nullifying the pace that you would generally have on them. It's going to be an interesting one, and the strategy is going to be a huge factor in this. We've seen before at Watkins Glen, I'm sure everybody knows, it's a difficult track to overtake at. It's very wide, but the lines are pretty set in stone, and it's difficult to get an inside line. If you defend hard and defend well, it's nigh on impossible for the guy behind to get around the outside in the right places. So you need to have a good second of pace or more in order to get the overtake done. That's going to become a big factor in the strategy, because you might be behind somebody that you're only 8/10ths quicker than, you can't get past them. So if you work the strategy right, maybe you can get them in the pits. But it all remains to be seen. It's going to be an exciting one.
For sure. What would you do Would you go for fuel saving behind that other car if you know the car has the same pace as you? Or would you just go for the overtake if you can? Let's be honest, the only real overtaking opportunity you have is out of turn 1 here on this long run up through the S's into the bus stop. That's really the only place where you do have the opportunity to overtake, let's be honest. And, well, would you go for the overtake or would you save fuel?
It very much depends on who you're overtaking and what the situation is. If you know for a fact that you're much faster, you can maybe send it into the bus stop chicane, but it's very, very dangerous to do that. Very dangerous indeed. That bus stop chicane can be lethal. That curb on the inside, on the right-hand side, if you don't take it all, it's got a big bump, and you're not fully committed to it. It will send you sliding sideways into the guy next to you if you are going side by side. So you've got to be brave for the overtake there, for sure. And you've got to trust that the guy on the outside, if you've got the inside line, isn't going to just snap across your nose. Personally, I would probably opt for the fuel-saving method. Just lift and coast, wait for the right time, judge the traffic right, and get them on an overcut, which can be powerful around here, but obviously it all depends on the tyres as well. If you go for the overcut and the guy who you're trying to overcut comes out on fresh tyres, you may well just be a little bit quicker.
For sure. Now, something that is always the case here at Watkins Glen is that run up through the S's and catching traffic there. I would say none of the hypercar drivers... Oh, this is interesting. Where's John Ewan going? Anyways, none of the hypercar drivers will want to catch a GT through there, because the way you take those S's is you kind of go to the inside of the right-hander, the inside of the left-hander, and then to the inside of the right-hander of turn 4 again. So you kind of right, left, right. So you're swerving across the track the whole time, because that's the quickest line. So to catch someone there is very difficult for the hypercar, since they don't know really where the other car is always going to go.
It is difficult, yeah. It's been an area with a lot of incidents in my races this week in iRacing, and it's very much about picking your line. And if you're a GT3 car and you know there's a hypercar behind, sometimes you're going to have to sacrifice your line. But it's that left-hander, turn 3 in those S's that you're talking about there. If you go offline there, the camber of the track changes pretty drastically. There's a bit of a crest in the middle of it. And if you get on the wrong side of it, it can suck you into the wall on the right-hand side before turn 4. And that's not ideal. It can make you slow all the way down to the bus stop, which can sometimes leave you sitting duck to a car behind. But all remains to be seen how these guys are going to deal with it. I can't imagine that we're going to be incident-free this race. It would be a really big surprise.
Yeah, for sure. We're coming up to qualify now. A bit less than a minute to go here in practice. And at the moment, it is Daniel Kirby topping the timing sheets on a 1:30.393, which, to be honest, I have to say, Steve, is quite a quick lap time around here. The lap times that I've seen so far, especially race trim, were 31 low. So to all of a sudden see a 30.3 in there, which I think is race pace, though, for Daniel Kirby. Is quite a surprise, but let's head into qualifying and see what we can expect there. The quickest lap time so far driven is also by this man, Daniel Kirby. It's a 1:29.463, so that's the quickest lap time we've seen. Not in this practice session though, but it's the quickest lap time we've seen in the session overall in the survey, however you want to call it. So we're expecting the lap times to drop down a bit in qualifying.
Yeah, certainly, but these are very quick times here. Daniel Kirby, one of the quickest drivers in the league. I mean, he's leading the Hypercar Championship after his win in Le Mans, actually. Obviously, Mia Rose won it on track, but unfortunately received a penalty for an incident in the race and dropped off the pole position there. So Daniel Kirby and Johnny Ray are currently leading that championship by a long way. 124 points to 117 to his teammate. And then Mia Rose behind with 101.5. Isn't here today, so can't actually serve her penalty as it stands, but will still be probably serving that in the next race. But, yeah, it's been an interesting championship so far, and I imagine we're going to see more drama today. As Daniel Kirby and Johnny Owen probably looking at odds-on favourites for this one, but it's racing. Anything can happen, and we've seen stranger things happen than this. But we'll get started with the qualifying, and GT3 cars, I imagine, are probably going to be in the 145s, something like that for quality, maybe. Maybe some of the faster drivers will get at the 44s. which I find hard to believe that people can do that. But I've been running this race on iRacing all week, and 46s seems to be the best I can do. So these guys, alien level, without a doubt.
Yeah, well, I've managed to do a 45.8, but that was only once, and I crashed the lap after, so take of that what you will. Anyways, difficult track for sure, this Watkins Glen circuit. It's not one that it's kind of perceiving, because it looks easy on the brink of it, but it definitely isn't when you start driving it. The elevation changes, the curbstones especially, the bus stop make it such a tricky track to drive. Now you have the outer loop, is such a long right-hander, turn 5. And the car can sometimes get unstable on the rear end. As we see now the GT3s go out for their qualifying. I would expect someone to drop into that 44 though.
Yeah, I would expect so. But yeah, very difficult track, very technical corners all around the track as well. Some very dangerous moments here as well. One of my favourite places here is turn 6. Just shoot between as you enter the boot, the left hand as you come around that outer loop. Turn number 5, which incidentally is a very good place for these faster hypercars to overtake, because you can get the outside line and just sweep around the outside of these GT3s, and as long as they see you and don't push you into the barrier on the left hand side, it should make it an easy move as you get the inside down into turn 6. But that turn 6 is a very difficult corner, I have to say. I've really struggled at this week. It's a downhill braking zone, and you've got to be very light on the brakes, trail brake, and you've got to be on the power very early as well. This right-hander that you see Eugene going through now as well is also fairly tricky. The heel, turn number 8, you've got to slow the car down a great deal to get the turn in, and then be very early on the power as well. And this entire last sector, through from turns 8 to 11, is a very difficult place for the hypercars to make any kind of overtake. The track looks wide, but it suddenly becomes very narrow when you're trying to fit a hypercar alongside a GT3 through that section, and it's very easy to misjudge the pace difference between the cars.
Especially over that bridge through turn 9 and 10, where if you do not have enough speed coming off that turn 9, which is very much possible because of the way that both cars take it, they have to slow right down. Of course, it's uphill, so you'll be getting a great bunch of understeer going through it. And I want to go back to turn 6 for just a second, because it's a corner that you will only really have understeer in. We'll see John Meyer come up to it in just a second. He's currently second. Of course, no lap times have been set yet. All of the drivers now on their first push laps. But here we go into turn 6. This is a corner where you will really always have understeer at. It's just, you make that first apex, and that's it really. Try and keep the car pinned to that inside. Well, you're a really good driver if you can manage that.
Yeah, it's certainly a difficult one. It's constantly trying to push the car out wide, like you say, with the understeer. John Mayer there, not getting quite close to that inside apex there. You've got to take a very late apex there. You can get on the power before you see the apex. It's a tiny little kink in the curb on that left-hander that you're looking to aim at, and you only really want to touch that part of the curb. If you're touching it already, you're not on the limit. So it'll be interesting to see how people deal with that, especially with the traffic as well, because the GT cars, they want to stick to their line, and the hypercars want to send it. So I've seen a number of incidents there in iRacing this week at the Watkins Glen where people are trying to go down the inside there, and you quickly run out of room as you think the guy can go wider than they can. I think the GT3 car can take a wider line than they can, and you've really got to be in the middle of the track as you enter that corner. Otherwise, you just wash out wide with the camber of the track.
Yeah, well, turn 1 is all about the exit, really. You take that speed through to the S's, into the bus stop, which is, I don't know for how long exactly. I haven't counted, and there's, I think, no data really exactly available on it, because every car, of course, here is different. But the amount of full throttle time that you have in between turn 1 and the bus stop, of course, the S's is in none of the cars that we really have here is a lift. As we see the first lap times come in, at the moment, JT Tammy leading the way on a 1:46, but gets beaten by Max Huntelaar, and he's on a 1:45.660. So already, with these first banker laps coming in, quite close to the 44. 6 tenths to gain for Mac, but JT Tammy is about 4/10 off of that time. That's a rapid lap time from Suntolab.
Yeah, he's just been beaten by Jamie Zalecki there. Currently doing very well in the championship himself with a 1:45.2, so 4/10 quicker again. I imagine we're going to start seeing some of these competitive times start coming in thick and fast now.
Now we're only 2/10 off of a 45. Honestly, I wouldn't have expected it to be this close already in qualifying. However, if we look at the time that we've got left, we've got 4 minutes, a bit longer left, a bit less than 5, let's put it like that. It's more like 4.5 minutes left of this session for the GT cars. Then the Hypercars will go out. Luckily for the Hypercars, they have a separate qualifying because, oh boy, would it be a mess if we saw these cars out on track at the same time with this traffic, especially in qualifying when stakes are so high. When you are on a really good lap coming into 10 and 11, you might send a move that is just never on a GT car, which might be on a very good lap too, and just completely ruin that car's lap, plus your own. So it's a good thing, especially at this track, where it's so difficult for multi-class, especially in that last sector, to overtake, that we do have them separately. It is still Jamie, who is on that provisional pole position on that 1:45.213. Intrigued to see if that's going to be beaten by anyone. If I look at sector times, at the moment, it doesn't look like anyone is getting close to it apart from JT Tammy.
Takanashi's just taken it there with a 1:44.430. An absolutely blistering lap there from, I believe he's Japanese. I've raced against him in iRacing a couple of times in the Formula 3.5s as well. He's been rapid there as well. Yeah, what a lap from him in the McLaren.
Well, there we've got our 1:44.430. And at this point, you have to be asking yourself, really, can someone do what I, at the beginning of this qualifying session, saw as impossible? Get down into the 1:43s, really. It must be possible because Eugene Mazur is going purple in Sector 1, doesn't improve in Sector 2, and is coming in to the pit lane, so he's not going to be improving this time round. Behind him, though, I think that is one of the Acuras coming through. And let's see if he can improve. He can't. Here is our current provisional pole sitter, Yuki Takanashi, in first, number 022. And I mean, the only driver at the moment into the 44s, but not by like a bit, like a 44.9. No, he has set the bar really high at a 44.4. He's 8/10 ahead of Jamie Zalecki, who in himself is like 4/10 ahead of Max Huntelaar.
Yeah, some brilliant laps coming in here, thick and fast. Shout out to Peter Meyer, who was brilliant last time out in the Le Mans. Absolutely dominated his field, and he's looking pretty hot here as well. P5 overall in the GTs, and he's in the AM class as well. So starting to get the feeling that the conversation about him moving up to the pros is getting stronger and stronger.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're about 4 or 5/10 ahead of the whole field in the AMS, you really have got to be asking, or you do have to be asking yourself some questions about, do I belong here in the AM class? Because it's all fun and games, you know, when you're winning. But let's be honest, you want to be up there in the pro class and killing it like Takanashi is doing it at the moment in P1 on a 1:44. The only one I do have to mention it again into the 44s so far. By a long mile, 1:44.430. 11 minutes and 10 seconds left of this qualifying session, a bit more. And we'll see in a second if anyone is going to go into their last lap improving. Peter Meyer at the moment is in 2 yellow sectors. So not a personal best for Peter Meyer in the first and the second sector. So I think he's going to be hoping for a next lap. Eugene Mazur, who we just saw, who is in, at the moment overall, is in P9 in his class. Zalecki also on a good one, I think. Zalecki might improve this time round. Never mind, he's just gone across start-finish line. He's in the pits. Never mind. Yeah, I thought for a second that he had such a quick last sector time on my timing screen here, Steve. I was like, this is an unbelievable last sector time. But no, it was indeed because he went back to pit lane.
So, Hypercars looking for their qualifying to go well now as they start to leave the pits. Obviously, we separate the qualifying through the classes just to prevent that awful build-up of traffic as you come over the qualifying here. But Eugene did a good job there to get P2 there in the class as well, so not bad from him. It's been interesting to see how things go, but it'll be very shocking to see anybody other than Daniel Kirby on the top spot here. He's the only man this week with a time in the practice sessions of a 29. The only other person to get close is Brian Hall with a 130 flat. So probably the favourite here, but anything can happen. Gets it wrong, or it's a wall or a barrier somewhere, especially in that last corner, the final turn 11. You've got to get very close to that wall on the exit, and very easy to bump it and start very slowly denting that front left side of your car. But, well, you got any predictions here, Dan, for this one? I have to say, Yuki Takadashi with the pole in the GTs is a big surprise. He's currently sitting P13, I believe, in the GT3 Championship for the pros. Did not expect him to see him sitting on pole today.
Well, Daniel Kirby is the driver we're looking at the moment, and of course he will be looking to take the pole position because, of course, leading the way, and of course he will want to add another win to his tally. He's got so many already, but I have to say, that does look striking, that red livery. Is that a new livery he's got on his car, or has he had that the whole season? Because it does look striking.
I think he had that last time out as well, yeah. So we just don't see him very often because he's always so far ahead. We never put the camera on him because he's not battling anybody. But that is the nature of Kirby. He's 2 wins so far this season in Daytona, and last time out in the 4.8 hours of Le Mans. Of course, he didn't win that on track, as we've already mentioned. Mia Rose did. She received a penalty and is not here today to serve that, so she'll be serving that next time out. But Daniel Kirby and Johnny Ryan absolutely commanding the championship in terms of the team championship, a big lead over Team Rookie Monsters. But one of these guys is going to have a horror race sooner or later. We all have them every season, and maybe today is the day. Watkins Glen doesn't really take prisoners when things go wrong. The barriers are pretty close around here,
and especially with the high speeds that we do have, when you do go off, it's usually a one-way trip to your mechanics down in pit lane, who are going to have to fix your car. First flying laps now for the Hypercars. Of course, Daniel Kirby is purple in sector 1 and purple in sector number 2. Now, let's see who's going to be the first one across the line. I don't think it is going to be Daniel Kirby. It's going to be the man at the moment, I think, all the way down, P33 overall. It's Kent Scott, or is he just starting his lap? I think he's just starting his lap. First one then across the line would be Jason Whitehead. So he will set the benchmark for the drivers. Gonna see it here. Across the line for Daniel Kirby, where he's gonna put himself. No purple section 1 for him anymore, but he does put the quickest time in so far. And that is the 1:29.224. Great lap time by Daniel Kirby. However, I don't think it's going to stand with the speed that we've seen so far. And I think a lot of drivers will be improving on that.
A number of drivers are going to start pipping their times in now, but 1:29.2 is absolutely rapid. I did not expect to hit the 29s so early in this session. I'll have another round or another go or two, at least these guys. But Johnny in P2 with a 1:30.1, and a newcomer to the league, Jean-Michel Loriot, in 3rd place with a 1:30.296. What a debut from him. Great stuff.
If you do want to debut in a race, you know, it's one thing to do it in the position that he's in at the moment. Felipe Enrique topping the timing sheets in the Hypercar AM class in his Acura. Now, I do have to say, the Acura is a car that no matter how much you look at it, it'll always look very aggressive. And I can't, if you look at the base of the car, really, oh, that's close for in qualifying with the Cadillac up ahead.
I'm not sure what's going on there. That's a bit untoward.
Bit of racing in quality here.
Yeah, you get it sometimes, I suppose, but not really the time or the place, fellas. Keep it for the race, eh?
Yeah. Well, if this is a recipe for what we're going to see in the race, then we're in a good place, you know. But yeah, hopefully it will be the case that we will see this during the race. Of course, I know one thing, and that is that usually, what everyone used to say is the fact that with speed comes the gap of the cars. You know, the quicker the car, the bigger the gap usually is during race time or race trim. But with these hypercars, I really don't find that is the case. With the way that usually if you look at MX-5 racing or anything, these cars don't have any, or have a very minimum amount of dirty air they do kick up behind their cars. That's why it's so good to race in them. But I haven't found that the case here with these hypercars, that they do that. And it seems like they're just like Formula 1 nowadays, producing so much downforce via the floor. Of course, this Peugeot exploiting everything of that downforce via the floor. It's just so good to see them be able to race that closely all the time.
Yeah, you can definitely follow closely around Watkins Glen, but there are a few places, especially the bus stop, where you kind of got to take it a little bit easy from the guy in front, just because of the bumpy nature of the track and how easy it can be to lose control on those curbs in the bus stop. But I don't know what you want really here at Watkins Glen, to be honest. Do you want to follow somebody and get that toe? The toe is huge down that big long straight through the and through the S's as well. It can gain you at least 4/10, I think, and whether or not you regain that or lose that through the rest of the track through dirty air, I don't believe you do. I think you probably want to follow here, in all honesty. It would be great for your qualifying time to get that toe, but Kirby currently leading the way with Johnny Ryan right behind him, his teammate, and I don't think either of these guys are using a toe to get these times. They are just using the awesome amount of talent in their hands and feet.
Well, there we go. John Ewan, 1:29. 2:24 is the time that he was aiming at, I think, but didn't get it. That's the lap time from Daniel Kirby, his teammate. Now, I did think for a second there that they both set the same lap time, but that's not the case. At the moment, John Ewan on a 1:30.112. It's the time that I've got him on here on my timing screen. Brian Holt's going purple in section number 1. Let's see what he can do. Of course, he's coming through that very difficult right-hander now, but the left tires will be screaming. Then down into turn 6 to shoot. A corner where you will always really only have understeer. We touched on it earlier on, did a full walk around the track. About almost all the corners. Then through turn 7 we go. Turn up into that little bit of a straight between 7 and 8 into the heel. A corner where you have to slow completely down before you turn the car in. You can't turn and brake at the same time there. A bit of overstay for Brian Green in section number 2. Now, can he challenge that time of Daniel Kirby in any way? No, he can't, because he does spin out, and that is a corner where we'll see that happen quite a lot. Going up the hill in turn 9, the car just gets so light once you get off of that hill on the exit of 9 that it's so easy to spin that car under power. Magnus Dahlgren just improving on his lap time too. He's jumped up into P6.
Yeah, that turn 9, absolutely deadly as we see Tom Lane going through it there. It's you've got to get very tight and take a very late apex and get on the power early. But if you hit that gas pedal just a little bit too hard, like you say, the rear end goes very light as you cross that crest, and it can be very tricky to catch it. In fact, it's almost impossible to catch it round that turn 9. And we're going to see a lot of people lose it around there as they get a bit scared or intimidated by these hypercars. The GT3s through there, very unstable as well, even at slow speeds that they go through there. But it's a tricky corner. It's probably the corner that we're probably going to see the majority of the incidents at, if not in the S's, because the S's are just so unpredictable.
Yeah, well, Porsche of Matthew Overton, purple in sector 1. It seems like these purples in sector 1 keep coming in, but no one is able really to complete that purple in section number 1. Now, section number 1 is all about speed that you get out of turn 1. That's what section 1 is all about here, and here we go, Matthew Overton is yellow in sector number 2. And that's why you won't see like purple by about 3 or 4 tenths. That's why it's so difficult to improve with a purple sector number 1, because you can have purple with about a tenth of an improvement. And let's be honest, the 10th is very easily lost if you get into the power a bit too late, or you brake a bit too late and go in a bit too hard into the bus stop. It's so easily lost, that 10th. That's why it's so difficult to improve on that time. Can he attack that 1:29.224? The answer is he can, but he can't get closer to it. And he stays in P8. Lewis Heskett in the AM class. Let's see what he can do. The number 62, BMW. This is the last lap that they can do. Checkered flag is out. So it's really this. You've got nothing else really to contend with, because this is your last lap. Now let's see where he will get up to. Currently down on P13 in this class, so he kind of needs a lap time here, doesn't he?
Yep, Louis Hesketh, also a newcomer and making his debut today as Jean-Michel Loriot, who we mentioned before on his debut, puts in a 29.830, gets himself up into P2. Great debut from him. So far, that is.
Well, he did that when it most mattered. Of course, not quite that pole position. That is for Daniel Kirby. But as we've seen so much this season, is that car is just so loose going up into turn 9. It's unbelievable. They even managed to get it through there without spinning every time. Just tells you how good these drivers are. Louis now going into the last corner.
He was very wide there in that turn, wasn't he? But keeps it out of the wall and crosses the line. Manages a 1:33.370. Doesn't improve on his best.
No, well, we're going to have the driver briefing, of course, for the drivers now. So the drivers will get briefed about what to do and what not to do in the race. Of course, also during or after the driver briefing, we'll have a brief warm-up where the drivers can find their pit boxes, see if they're in a pit box together with someone else. At the moment, we've got 36 cars that have set a qualifying time. It's Mike Olsen and Josh Lipetri who haven't set a lap time in qualifying. If they did, we would have had a 37 car or a 38 car field. Josh Lipetri is now the only one left. We did have 38 before, so I don't know who has had an unfortunate disconnect.
See if we can find that information, but for the time being, yeah, driver briefing, where I imagine there's not much to that. Go as fast as you can, don't hit anybody else. Easy, job done. But yeah, it's going to be...
That's easy though. Going as fast as you can without hitting anybody can prove very tricky though.
Well, that's part of the beauty of racing, isn't it? But obviously, for a race like this, where you're doing an hour and a half of racing or so, it's very difficult to go as fast as you can every single lap. You've got to pick and choose at your moments. You sometimes have to drop things to about 98% or so in order to just keep yourself steady and safe. And obviously, traffic slows you down massively at times. It can cause at least a second or 2 seconds of drop time if you catch a GT3 car in the wrong place as a hypercar. Yeah, we've got...
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say we've got somebody to bring in from the waiting room here. We're going to have a chat with Ross.
Yes. Good afternoon, gentlemen. How are you all doing?
Very well. How are you, Ross?
Good, thanks. Thank you for having me in the booth. It's a beautiful day out here today. Sun is shining. Probably will be the whole way, but who knows? Maybe it won't. Maybe it'll decide to rain. Who knows? But I wanted to kind of drop in and catch people up on what's going on. Obviously, we've got the driving brief going on right now, as you guys have been talking about. George is in there telling everybody what to do and what not to do. And in the meantime, I just wanted to kind of cut in and talk a little bit about the league, about Storm Gang Simulation, which has provided the Hypercars and some of the new GTs, and sort of what the state of the mod is, if you guys don't mind.
Yeah,
of course, go ahead.
Crack on.
Right. So, so again, I'm Ross Smith. I work with the Storm Gang simulation crew as well as the Champion Motorsport team. Champion Motorsport, of course, is the league. It's a league of leagues, basically. It's an organization that hosts lots of different chapters, we call them, which effectively occupy different days of the week and provide different events. Like this one here is the rFactor 2 series for Saturday, and we have historics on Tuesday evenings and modern sort of potluck of anything else that goes on Thursday evenings. And I host the historics on Tuesday. Matthew Overton, who's also racing today, he hosts on the Thursday nights, and George Angelides is here admitting for today. And so we work with the Champion Motorsport team. All of the admins within the organization, just to make sure that we allow all the different members within the organization an opportunity to select their sim of choice and maneuver around and go to the different nights of the week, and kind of like a buffet where you can just go in and pick your sim and racing style for the night. So it's a great group, really strong community. There are well over 3,500 members right now, and a lot of active members in the various channels that span from everything from taking a look at rigs to looking at the sims themselves and talking about diapers and candy bars and anything else that you feel like talking about. So it's a great community. I can't say enough about all the people that this organization has attracted to it to just really make it great. You get a lot of insight and a lot of great camaraderie. George actually was just at the 24 Hours of Le Mans in Les Arth and hanging out with guys from England, Germany, South Africa, just all over the place. Yeah, it's great.
24 experience, that one.
Say again?
The proper 24-hour experience. That one.
Yes, yeah, oh yeah. They were in a tent. They got rained on. They had everything. I mean, if anyone who saw that race knew that was very special. Short of Ferrari actually coming back and making wins and all that, it's just an awesome thing. He's sending us pictures and commenting live is awesome. And to see him do it with people that we don't see, but we hang out with every week. It's just really cool just to get all of that together. So, living virtually and in the real world, it's fantastic. So
what an epic experience for George. But tell us, for everybody who's watching, how can they get involved with the league? Where should they go? Where are the resources in order to get involved with the Discords and join these leagues? What do they need to do?
So a couple quick ways to do it. You could go to cmsracing.com. Which is Champion Motorsport itself. There's a direct link to the Discord there. Any of the links in the YouTube channel, all of the description, they're all there. And then, of course, we have the Storm Gang side as well, which is the active modding group, which consists of a lot of the same members from Champion Motorsport. We've broken away and kind of done our own thing on the side for the rFactor 2 front. Primarily driven by George because he's got a strong focus on sports cars, and that's his passion, his life. He's the dynamo for the whole thing. Like, he really pushes hard to get this stuff out there. But we started with that, and then we kind of got into, okay, what else can we do? And we've done some Trans Am mods, historic and modern. We're working on a few other things behind the scenes. We're helping other modding groups and bringing them in and collaborating on different assets to update them and just make it great for everybody. And we'll use them in our series at CMS, and it makes the community so much better and the sim more lively and more authentic and realistic in the way that we can just pool our assets. So it's a great type of thing to have.
I have to say, it is. These mods are absolutely gorgeous as well. It does look as though the people involved have poured a lot of hours into the detail, and the attention to detail here is phenomenal. So,
yeah, thank you.
Kudos to everybody involved for that. But have you got any updates for anybody in terms of what's happening next with the mods?
Yes, actually. So you kind of touched on some of the visuals there. There are still some elements that we're certainly incorporating. One of the big ones that's coming is the Acura cockpit is queued to go in. And we've got a couple other updates that are going to happen with the interiors as well to just really bring those up to, a modern, like a top tier quality, the gold standard that we really want, where everything's working, everything looks good. Same with exterior elements. We're going to really update those. So when you see it, you may not recognize all the little details that go in at first, but you just kind of know they're there just by you're like, that looks primo. So we're working on that. We're going to hope to have all of the hypercars updated by the time we get to the Road America race, which is going to be later in August. We'll have some of those updates for Mossport coming up in the next month. So you'll see those things kind of go in there and get going, and then we're going to have a few more surprises because we've got some mods getting into the workshop. Some of our historic content's going to be getting out there. Go check out any of the Trans Am stuff. It's in the workshop now. A lot of really great feedback on though. Been working with real life drivers and all of the stuff we're doing. So we're very excited. We've got a lot of talent and a lot of insight that we're able to pull and just make these things as good as they can be.
Definitely doing a fantastic job of that as well. But pleasure to have you here as always, Ross. Is there anything else that you want to discuss while you're with us?
I have a question.
Oh, yes.
How are you in terms of broadcasting? Are you thinking about us too?
I think about you guys constantly, and just the amazing work that JVB has brought to elevate everything that's been going on with CMS, and to really showcase this work. I mean, it's been absolutely fantastic. I can't say enough about the incredible work just behind the scenes, what everyone sees. It comes together and it makes this just, the event that everybody comes here and gushes over. You could be last place in a wall and you can still have a fun time sitting back and eating popcorn watching one of these races again. So it's just fantastic. Great to you guys.
I have to say, Dan, I've never seen anybody go fishing for compliments with a grenade before, but that was well done.
I mean, he got it in there, didn't he?
Yeah.
Props to you, Ross. Anyways, last question for me, which is not mod related, but about the race. Starting P7, if my time screen is correct. What are your plans for the race and what is your strategy? Do you want to give anything away to anyone?
Just staying clean, trying to make it to the end. It's going to be tight. You guys will see it. You're going to have your hands full just staying on top of all the action, because once we start mixing with the GTs, it's going to be a bull ring. I mean, they talk about how LMP1s and Formula 1 cars are like jets in a gymnasium. These hypercars are going to feel like horses in a hallway coming down on top of this GT traffic. It's just going to be wild.
How long do you think it's going to be before you catch them?
Couple laps before we start seeing the back end of some of these cars. I'd say by lap 3-4 we'll be properly mixed.
There we go. Well, Ross, a very, very big thank you for joining in, and good luck for the next 60 laps.
Many thanks, and good luck to you guys. We'll hope to make it interesting for you.
Thank you very much.
Please do.
Take care.
Well, Stephen, I mean, can't say enough indeed about the job that these guys have done with the mods, and rFactor 2 is a game that it's very rough around the edges, but if you do have people like this, especially with these moddings and everything, it does show that there's incredible potential.
Definitely, and the amount of effort these guys put in is unbelievable as well. It's this is the kind of community spirit that we love to see in sim racing. Since I've joined sim racing 4 years ago, it has been very welcoming to me, and racing is for everybody as well here, and I think here at CMS they've definitely shown that across this league as well. But should be an exciting race, another one. We've had plenty so far already that we've broadcast for them, and this is bound to be another great one. This track is absolutely fantastic for racing. Very hard to overtake, like we've already mentioned, but that means that you can kind of run side by side, and if you've got somebody behind you that may be a little bit quicker, you're more than entitled to start racing them here, because it's not that easy for them to get past and disappear. Obviously, once they are past, it becomes a lot easier to disappear, but it's that getting past that's the difficult part.
Yeah, and well, traffic and everything is going to make that a lot harder on this 3.45 miles circuit. And the thing that I am looking most forward to is that first time that they catch the traffic. It's every time, no matter what multi-class race you go to, absolute chaos, and it does break up the field usually. That's usually where the gaps start to form. the drivers get a bit more of a breathing room before they head into the next, whatever it'll be. I think around 54, 53 laps. I think they'll catch them by around lap 5, lap 6, and then they'll be on the back of the GT3 field. So I think once we've gone through that traffic, I think we'll see who has the pace and who's going to struggle a bit through the traffic, because it's not only just raw pace that we're looking at here. Of course, those first 4, 5, 6 laps, it is all about the pace in the car, and if you can create like 2 seconds, well, jobs are good. But then you start getting into the traffic, and then the race really starts.
Yeah, very easy to lose that 2 seconds in a couple of corners if you get caught behind the wrong GT3. And of course, there's always that huge risk of an incident whenever you're making an overtake. Sometimes the GT3 cars are battling each other and just don't see you if you're the hypercar. Sometimes they didn't see you there and didn't expect the dive that you make as well. So it's going to be interesting. And as you say, yeah, when the traffic is caught up for that first time, that is the time in the race when the traffic is at its tightest. There's the minimal gaps that you can get through. You've got to be very patient. However, got to get a wriggle on as well. You've got guys in the hypercars right behind you looking to take advantage of any hesitancy when overtaking those GT3s. And very easy to get blocked in from a GT3. Some of these guys might use that to their advantage. The hypercar, if you can get a wheel alongside, block them in behind the GT3 car, it makes an overtake a lot easier to make.
Now, I do know that the man on production today, Sir James Parfitt, as I'm going to call him, has a, on this channel, it's known that James has a very clear view on blue flags and traffic and everything.
We've started this one early, haven't we?
I mean, it's good now to get it out of the way during the warm-up, so we know where we stand for the race.
It's something I've always agreed with James on there as well. The blue flags, definitely got to make it as easy as possible for the guy behind to make the overtake. But the GT3s, I've said this many times before, predictability. That is the order, the word of the day, the order of the week, whatever you want to call it. It's predictability. Make sure that everybody around you knows what you're going to do. Don't try and do anything unpredictable or erratic. That's the main thing.
Now, I do catch myself out sometimes when I do zone out, and this is because usually we don't get time to drive a lot. Let's be honest, Stephen, with the full calendar that we have of commentary. So when we do drive, I find myself when I zone out that I forget to look in my rear view mirror. So then sometimes I turn into a corner and I'm like, oh yeah, there's a GTP there. Don't know, might be the only one with that issue. Might be just a skill issue.
It's no, I think it's definitely it's just one of the challenges of multi-car racing, really one of the hardest challenges of it, but it's what also makes it very exciting as well, because anything can happen. You've got to be alert at all times, not just to the cars that you're battling with, but cars that are just sharing the track with you, that trying to be in the same space at the same time as you. These hypercars are much quicker than the GT3s. It's got so much downforce, they can carry so much speed through the corners. But if you're not alongside before the corner turning, then you've got to scrub all of that speed off and just slot in behind the GT3 and make the move where it's safe to do so. Sometimes the hypercars think, oh, I can get into that gap, and then all of a sudden it slams shut, and it's not good from the hypercar's point of view.
No, well, at that point, I think you kind of body language of a car is very important. And we're going to see that throughout this whole race. Sometimes what a GT does to tell, okay, I do not want you to go to the inside here and dive me from like 5/10s back. He defends the inside of the corner just for a brief second to tell the GTP or the LMDH behind, like, no, I do not want you to overtake here. So as GTP, you kind of have to read that as well. Here we go then. The grid for the race. Daniel Kirby will be leading the way ahead of Jean-Michel Larot. Then John Ewan, Tom Lane, Brian Hall, and Timon Suvik round off the top 6. Ross Smith in 7th. Matthew Overton in 8th. Magnus Dahlgren 9th. and Philip Henrique, the first one in the AM class. Wayne Hutchinson, second in the LMDH AM class. Norm Graff in 12th. Louis Kesket in 13th. Jason Whitehead in P14. George Angelidis in 15th. Alexander Schultz 16th, ahead of Guillermo Bencha in 17th. Then Joe Fallis in P18th, and Ken Scott rounds off the GTP field. Yuki Takanashi on the pole position for the GT3 Pros. Jamie Zlecki in 21st, ahead of Vinicius Gonçalves in 22nd. Mac Sontalab in P23, ahead of JT Tammy in P24. Peter Meyer on the pole position in the GT3 AM class, ahead of John Meyer in P26. Brandon Johns in P27. Eugene Mazur second in the AM class, 28th overall. James Walker in 29th. And Stuart Barge in 30th overall, but third in GT3 AM class. Brendan McVie in 31st. Adam Gray, 32nd. Stefan Miller, 33rd. Bent Choop in 34th. Mike Boos in 35th. 36th for Stephen Boos. And Mike Olsen and Josh Lipetri. Both of those drivers have not set a lap time, so they will be starting from the back of the grid. Now, for the LMDH that we just saw, for the hypercar class, that's a bigger gap towards the back of their class than they would probably be used to normally. Normally, what you would see is just you would stay at the end of the hypercar field, but no, it has to come all the way through from the back of the GT field, so it has to wait until the GT field actually goes green. So already, before the race even starts, it's going to be difficult for him to catch up.
Going to be very difficult for him to navigate that traffic in the early stages, as well as the GT3 cars will be looking to battle each other left and right as on the first lap. As we all know, the first lap is the greatest lap to gain many positions or lose many positions, as the case may be, in the race.
You don't win it on the first lap, right? Do you?
Do I what?
Do you win it on the first lap?
I
think you
do.
Right down to turn one, right?
I do. I definitely win it in turn one every time. Everybody else crashes in turn one, but it's going to be interesting. But obviously, 60 laps race. It's going to be interesting. But yeah, I'm not sure what happened there.
Oh.
But, yeah, we'll come back to that.
Oh.
And figure that out. But yeah, big welcome to the new guys as well. We might as well mention them in this gap here. But Louis Hesketh, Ken Scott, Bent Schub, and Jean-Michel Loriot, who is all newcomers to the league and making their debut today. Loriot is looking particularly quick already.
So,
yeah. We have got some technical issues in the background due to server problems. We're going to have to restart that. So, wondering if we're going to go to a splash screen. Ah, we've already restarted, so looks like we're already back in. Couple of drivers disconnected. Looks like we've solved that technical issue very quickly, though, so that's looking good. But back on the grid momentarily for the race start. So, Dan, any predictions from your side? This Loriot guy looks pretty rapid. Is he going to be able to challenge Kirby in the opening stages?
Oh, I'm going to throw it in there. I'm going to throw it in there. He's going to win. He's going to win. He's going to win in his debut. I'm going to throw it in there. He's going to have a dream debut. And he's going to win the race. There we go. If I do now jinx you, I am sorry. Get used to it. This is my luck. There we go. I just shouldn't say anyone for the win, really, because I will have them behind me coming up with buckles and everything. Anyways, Daniel Kirby on the pole ahead of John Michael Loriot. Then John Ewan in third and Tom Lane in P4. Brian Hall in 5th, Timon Suvik in 6th, Ross Smith in 7th, and Matthew Overton in 8th. That is how the top 8 will be looking. That Porsche will be looking forward to seeing that run. Then the Ferrari 499P from Magnus Dahlgren, ahead of Philippe Henrique in the Acura. Then Wayne Hutchinson and Non Graff in P12 in his Cadillac. Louis Hesketh in P13, and Jason Whitehead in the other Ferrari 499P. Then George Angelidis in the Acura, and Alexander Schultz also in the Acura ARX06. Guillermo Bencha in 17, and have Joe Fallis in P18 in the BMW V8 Hybrid. Ken Scott in the Peugeot, and then the first of the GT drivers, Yuki Takanashi. Jamie Zlecki in P21, and Vinicius Gonçalves in P22. Max Santalop P23, and JT Tammy in P24. 4. PD Meyer on the pole for the GT3 AM class, ahead of John Maher in P26. Brandon Johns P27 and Eugene Merzeau second in the GT3 AM class. James Walker in 29th, Stuart Bryce third in the GT3 AM class but 30th overall. Brandon McVie 31st and Adam Gray in P32 overall. Then Stephen Miller in P33 and Mike Boos P34. Stephen Boos in P35 and Josh Lipetri in P36. I think that is going to round off the grid. So that means that Mike Olsen is not getting onto the grid. Now, we do have at the top left 61 laps, and I do know people are going to be asking us this question. Why do we have 61 laps if it says 60 laps at the Glen? Well, that has all to do with the rolling start that we will do. Of course, we do have the orange zone that runs from start-finish on the first lap to the exits of the bus stop. Any incident that what happened there, Stephen, will be penalized harder, basically, because of course you want to promote the racing going down into turn 1, but you also want to make sure that if you do go for an overtake, it's actually a sensible overtake instead of an overtake where you just send it from like the moon or something. So that's why that orange zone is there. We'll be starting single file 2 and will not be going green until the pole sitter has crossed start finish. So that's when we will be going green. So I see, honestly, no way here for Jean-Michel Leroux to kind of jump Daniel Kirby. There's like no way to jump him down in turn 1 with how we run.
Yeah, but the tow down at the bus stop could well be a moment for him to maybe brave a move. But like you say, it's not impossible. You are allowed to make an overtake in that orange zone on the first lap. But if you do make contact, then it's going to be penalised much heavier than any other time in the race. So trying to find a lot of the drivers to just sit in single file and wait for the right moment. Just get that first half of the lap underway without incident. But Leroux,
I mean,
it's his debut,
hasn't it?
Sorry?
It has worked this season, hasn't it? The orange zone. I don't think we've seen, well, maybe 1 or 2 incidents in the orange zone. And even that is a lot from how the season has gone so far.
Yeah, it's a great method, I think, to promote that very safe mentality for that opening lap. You often find a lot of leagues that don't have this kind of orange zone in place tend to have a lot of havoc in lap 1, turn 1, because, like I said before, it is a great opportunity for a lot of these drivers. A lot of drivers, all racing drivers, think this when they're sitting on the grid. This lap 1 is my opportunity. Got a car off in the background there in the bus stop, just pulling to the side. Joe Fallas unable to continue. I'm not sure what's going on there. Maybe a technical issue with his sim rig or something going on with the game. Hopefully he can get it solved, get back going again. It's unfortunate for him, as it is for, I think it was it Overton or
yeah,
I can't get on the grid. It's always unfortunate, but I mean these things kind of happen in real life as well. Technical issues and faults and things like that sometimes get chucked out. Apologies, it was Olsen that couldn't get into the session. So, but yeah, that kind of happens in sim racing too as well. Just adds to the realism, don't you think, Dan?
I mean, we saw it at the Indy 500, where Graham, I think, had a torrid week, really, not getting into the Indy 500, then getting a call up because one of the drivers crashed really hard during, I think, one of the warm-up sessions or one of the practice sessions, like a day before the Indy 500. Couldn't continue, was in hospital, got the call up, and then at the start, the engine didn't turn on. So yeah, a torrid Indy 500 for him. But in the end, got through and was able to start, but about 3-4 laps behind. That's kind of what can happen here in sim racing too, with not getting into the server or for some reason having some trouble on the warm-up lap. But it's gonna all come to an end, this warm-up lap. Daniel Kirby is going to start this race in just a few seconds time when he crosses start-finish. And, well, it's going to be a Peugeot party for at least turn 1. P1, P2 and P3, all Peugeots. Daniel Kirby is going to cross start-finish. And we're underway for the 60 laps of the Glen. Daniel Kirby leading the way ahead of Jean-Michel Leroy and John Ewan in P3. Tom Lane, the first of the Porsches, trying to chase them down. Then Brian Hall in the Acura. Timon Suvic in 6th, also the Acura. And Ross Smith following them through in turn 7. The GT3s have also got on the way. Yuki Takanashi, a good start for him too. Clean start for him. So far, you can see that orange zone doing its thing. Oh, however, we've got a Mercedes off. That was a Mercedes off down in the turn 1. And that can cause some trouble because that was right on the racing line.
And that was Peter Meyer, I believe, as well, who was leading the AM category there in the GT3s. He's gone around to that orange zone. Maybe a big penalty coming from somebody there. Didn't see what happened, but
I think it was on his own. He looked on his own, really.
Have a look with a replay here and see what happened to him as everybody gets their first clean lap underway. Let's have a look and see. He looks quite a distance behind there for a second, but here we go. Somebody going down the inside into turn 1. He gets wide and loses it himself, so no contact with anybody else. Does very well to hold the brakes there. Let the guys come past. Almost took somebody out himself, but just seemed to lose it on his own. But this man has the pace to recover this. He's got some work to do now, though.
Well, he's made it a lot harder for himself. No, just went a bit wide, and that is something you can see. And of course, in the orange zone, he did go for the overtake. And the driver on the outside made a mistake. No, that's not going to be a penalty. It was completely on Peter himself. He just went a bit too wide, and then I think expected a bit too much from the tyres without really properly getting heat into them, and a bit too much on the loud pedal or whatever. Maybe catching a bump in the wrong way, and that's, well, sent him around spinning. Thought for a second he was going to take out one of the Acuras, but it is still Peugeot leading the way. And Jean-Michel Leroy still chasing down Daniel Kirby, who did set the quickest lap time, but was also beaten after that by Jean-Michel Leroy on a 1:32.841. Not a bad lap time for a first lap.
Yeah, pretty rapid, but these guys have checked out from the rest of the field. Leroy seems to have the pace to compete with Mr. Kirby here, and that is fantastic news from us as a spectator's point of view, because ordinarily Kirby disappears into the distance, but I get the feeling that it's going to be difficult for Leroy to make any kind of move. This gap is staying consistent, but they have both dropped John Uyan quite easily here, and he's now leading a 3-car train of him, Tom Lane and Brian Hall. Sorry, a 4-car train, 5-car, 6-car train, keeps getting bigger and bigger, all the way down to P10, that little train there behind, and that tow down that main straight is going to mean that these guys find it a little bit easier to keep up with each other.
Now, this is a track where it's difficult to break that draft because you've got that tow, of course, all the way from turn 1 up through the S's into the bus stop, and even after the bus stop through the outer loop into the chute, so difficult to kind of try and get someone out of your slipstream, and that is where that traffic is gonna come into play. A bit wide there from Tom Lane. You can do that, not too often though, because the stewards will penalise you at some point, but you can do it like 2 or 3 times, maybe. And after that, you might get a drive-through penalty for not adhering to the track limits. So you have to be careful with it, but you can do it like 2 or 3 times before you get the penalty.
Yeah. Good start from Yuki Takanashi in the GT3s. He's managed to create a 2-second gap already to Zalecki behind, who's currently battling with Goncalves and Suntenlap, and T.A.T. Tami behind that as well. So Yuki Takanashi doing well with his first pole start that I've seen so far.
Eugene Missouri leading the way in the GT3 AM class, followed by Stuart Barge. The gap between them just over 3.5 seconds. This gap though a lot closer. Josh Liperti on the back of Mike Boos. This is for P4 in the GT3 AM class. 2 tenths separating the two, and here you can see that slipstream doing its work, catching, and at some point you have to hold in because you're catching too quickly. Pulls out to the left-hand side. That'll be the outside for the chicane, and that is nicely defended by Mike Boos. Also helped by the fact that he got that run a little bit too early in the McLaren. He's struggling all the way through that chicane to try and get it hooked up, try and get it stable. But Josh is all over the back of the Lamborghini of Mike Boos here.
One thing to catch them, another thing to pass them though, and he's finding it, discovering the difficulty of passing somebody at Watkins Glen. You've really got to hope for a mistake. That draft, as you saw down that main straight into the bus stop, very powerful, but yeah, he's now at 4 positions though, Lepetri, and that is fantastic news for him, starting at the very back. Didn't set a time in qualifying, wants to do the last to first challenge maybe? Is he going to do it?
I mean, both, of course, at the front of the field, Jean-Michel Leroux and him, you know, new entries for this race. So, I mean, both of them delivering on their debut so far. Maybe Josh had a little bit of a more, well, his start was a little bit more difficult. The McLaren, though, overtaking the other McLaren. That is 4P5 in the class. That is Miller going past. So he's now back down onto P6. That just tells you just a second of just a little bit of lack of concentration for him there. Just for a second. Gets caught out coming out of turn 9. The exit better for Miller. And there we go. Back down to P6 you go. And instead of attacking up ahead boost now, he's trying to attack and get back into P5.
Now he's got Peter Meyer for company in the Mercedes behind as well, who's already managed to catch back up to the pack. And
that's one guy you don't want to see in your mirror, is it?
Certainly not. I mean, he put him on pole, but are we going to see a late move into the bus stop here? No, everybody knows how dangerous this bus stop can be, as the concertina effect there was heavy, as we've got a LMDH coming through now, as well as Kirby and Leroux are trying to navigate this traffic here around the outer loop. A good place to overtake for the LMDHs. This, as the GT3 cars just have to stick to the inside, the quicker line around that long looping right-hander, and the LMDHs can quite easily power around the outside.
Well, did I tell you, 5 or 6 laps to catch them, and it didn't indeed turn out to be 5, but you can see the speed difference on board here with Daniel Kirby. Just flies past the GT3s. It's unbelievable how quick these Peugeots are. Of course, Peugeot a lot quicker at Le Mans in the real WEC than they were at all the other races. Of course, Le Mans, longer race, so that car comes into its own a bit more. The Porsche on the back of the Acura, both come in contact with each other. There's Tom Lane and Bryce Hall up ahead of him. Almost 3 wide there, going down on the turn 10. Please keep it safe, and they do. The Porsche, however, of Lane goes up the inside of Hall. However, that's a lot easier said than done, but he does get it done, and he does indeed do what you told him to do. Just get one wheel alongside and kind of box them in behind the GT3 car.
Oh, what epic racing that was there. You've got the LMDH cars battling with each other fiercely as they overtake GT3 cars in a very tricky sector of track. And that was unbelievably clean racing there from everybody involved. Absolutely amazing that nobody ended up in a huge pile up there. Great stuff. As we see another overtake here as the LMDH goes to the inside, down into the bus stop. There's an LMDH in front of the red of Johnny Yuan, and he manages to get it done there. Does Brian Hall? And no, he doesn't. Oh, they're on the grass. Ooh, that's they've managed to really get away with that one. That is a huge amount of luck and a great amount of skill. No shortage of skill for sure to keep the car stable and steady as you get a wheel onto the grass. The grass ordinarily really upsets the car.
Now,
bit of a twitch there.
Was how Tom Lane was able to keep that going. Of course, all the load on those left-hand side tyres through the outer loop, and to touch the grass coming off a corner like the bus stop, which is so quick, so much load on the tyres and the suspension on the car itself. How did he keep that going and not like snap off overstay into the wall on the left-hand side? Now maybe again going up the inside of the GT. 1 is fine, 2 is fine as well. Now he has to watch out that GT3 is going to take his normal line again. So behind him in P6, he has to watch out, of course, because Subi is coming through as well. Oh, unbelievable.
Look at how difficult this is for the LMDH drivers to navigate. It's very, very hard to do, isn't it? You've got to really be aware of everything going on around you. The spatial awareness levels necessary is here goes Subin around the outside, and there's contact, and there's an LMDH in the wall. That is a huge crash there. I'm not sure who that was, who got involved into the wall, but it looks as though it was Subic, who's heavy damage surely from that
Tom
accident.
Lane, I think it was, and I think it's Bryce Hall who ended up with the worst of that. So Tom Lane gains that position. I think Bryce Hall, or Brian Hall, excuse me, He has dropped down the order massively. So Tom Lane now up to P4. Let's have a look back at exactly what happened. A bit later, oh, that's straight on at the chicane. This is GT3 going in very deep.
Nice safe rejoin from that McLaren there, the GT3, the orange livery car. But yeah, a number of off tracks and incidents here for people to run through. See a lot of people struggling with this bus stop chicane. Another man going very wide there, using a bit of the grass, keeps it together in the end. It is real heart in mouth moments, I should say. If I can get my teeth put back in. Through that chicane at times, it very much unsettles the car, even on the perfect racing line. And you've got to be very good to control it. But
oh, that's a late dive.
Stewart going heavily and hard on the inside into turn 8, I believe it is. Gets on the grass, puff of smoke from the dust from the grass. He gets it done. Stuart Barge may not be particularly happy with that move, how the lateness of it.
Well, I guess it's not the only time he'll feel that way because, well, we're on lap number 9 now of this race. We've still got about 50 more to go. And, I mean, there's going to be so much more moments where a hypercar is just going to send it because he's under pressure from the car behind, that a GT3 is just going to either have to move out of the way or you crash. And we'll see probably some of those crashes too, because not all the time it'll end up by the GTP or the hypercar just passing. So sometimes it does go wrong. We're all humans, we do all make mistakes, but sometimes it's just better to minimize that risk and stay behind anyways. However, tell that a driver who's under pressure from the car behind him.
Certainly, yeah, but if you're a GT3 car and you're out on track on your own, in a bit of space, a bit of breathing room, got that LMDH bearing down on you into the bus stop, just lift and let them go, lift and let them pass. It just makes life, your life so much easier. But obviously, tell a racing driver to get off the loud pedal and they'll look at you like you're absolutely mental, or you know, it's just not something that racing drivers do, is it?
And then if you tell them afterwards that it was like 10% their own fault that they put their car in that position, then they completely do not understand what you mean. But that's, I mean, when I get into a car, I am the same. So it's just in the heat of the moment to kind of look back at it and kind of honestly say, okay, yes, it was my mistake. Yeah, if you can do it, you're a very, very good driver for sure. Oh, that's across the grass for one of the, I think one of the Peugeots.
John Nguyen, I believe, but. And Louis Hesketh, the newcomer, has also gone off somewhere in the background as well. We're waiting for that replay. Here he is on your screens at the moment. Looks like he's running it again and doesn't look to have too much damage on the car that I can see. But there has been an incident involving Yuki Takanashi also. I'm not sure what happened to him, but he is now running dead last. He's been in the pits and he's come back out again. But that's not gone his way. And we've also lost Joe Fallas, who we did see come off the track in the very opening stages of the formation lap. He is now out of the race altogether.
Well, that tells you how important qualifying really is here. We've got Takanashi, who was, how far was he ahead of like the field? Like by 7-8 tenths, and then he. Like the race, he's now plumb lost. So that tells you, in a longer endurance race of an hour or longer, that really tells you how important qualifying is. The only importance in my eyes that qualifying has is if you qualify at the front, you can stay out of all the trouble that is happening behind you. That's the only reason why, in my eyes, in an endurance race, qualifying would be important.
Yeah, something I do very often with my qualifyings in my sim racing career, if you want to call it that, is I'll either start at the front if I'm a high number or high I-rated driver in that lobby, or I'll start at the very back. But one thing I do not want to do is start in the middle. It makes it very difficult to navigate the carnage of lap 1.
I'd rather start in that case.
Yeah, but yeah, if you get at the back of the grid, that's the best place to start. Pit lane can sometimes leave you a little bit too far behind in the get-go, but like you say, in an endurance race, in the longer races, all that matters is your consistent race pace. And if you keep that consistency throughout the 60 laps, you'll end up where you're going to end up regardless of your qualifying. But Yuki is definitely finding out how important it is to just keep it clean for those 60 laps. He looks like he's lost it on his own, so no contact with anybody else, and he's a lap down on everybody else after a quick pit stop. Maybe he got some damage, but we've got a number of drivers going off track here using that runoff in the bus stop. That bus stop causing a bit of a nightmare for people here. The LMDHs catching onto the back of the GT3s through there is a real scary moment.
Well, not the only time we're going to see that. Tammy, though, up into P2, if I remember correctly, he was, I think, down on P5 in this class. So JT Tammy up 3 positions from where he started and doing a great job. Vinicius Gonçalves also behind him. But you do love to see that car where it is at the moment. I think that, you know, the Aston Martin is such a great looking car, and yeah, I just love it for how it is and the legacy that it has.
Definitely make beautiful cars, do Aston Martin. Very flowing curves, lovely profile to them, really. I always like the profile of an Aston Martin. Would love to own one day, but not likely in my lifetime. But look at this, Jamie Zalecki inherited the lead after Yuki's incident and has not looked back. He's got a sizable gap behind him. He's looking hot for the win, but well, it's only 7/10 actually behind him. I believe. Correct my mistake there. So yeah, and then Brian Hall behind that, Calvez behind that. So it's gone something lap also there as well. So it's a big battle here for the GT3s here in the Pro class, and the LMDH cars are going to have to be wary of this when they come up on it, because it's very difficult to make the overtakes when these guys are battling, and these guys think less about the LMDHs when they're trying to look for the inside or the outside for a move on somebody in front. Makes it very difficult for the LMDHs to make the pass, and they can't be patient forever. There is one in the background of these pack of 3 cars, and he'll be looking to get through before the end of this lap, most likely. The difference pace. It's a defensive move here from Zalecki. Zalecki's hanging on for dear life at the moment. It looks to be a fantastic battle between these 3 cars. There's the LMDH on the back. Nowhere to go. Look, he's got to be patient and wait for the right moment to get alongside these guys, and it's out of this corner here. Turn 7 or 8, I believe that is. That is turn 7. Apologies. Turn 8, but look at this. Very difficult for this LMDH to make his way through this traffic. Come through into turn 9. This is a place where you do not want to be on the inside. There's the LMDH, but look at him. He gets blocked in by the GT3 on the outside there, and it's making it very difficult for him, these GT3 cars, to get past. Going to be less hesitant, a bit more aggressive with his sends here. He's got the more powerful car by a long way. Has to be a bit more aggressive, I think. Oh, definitely aggressive there in the final corner, but he gets it done. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, the McLaren is also going to get it done now on the BMW. The inside for turn 1 pushes the BMW almost onto the grass there, but gets the move done, and well, good overtaking maneuver, I would say, also using the traffic to his advantage, really, setting himself up really nicely out of that last corner.
Side by side now, JT Tammy with Zalecki for the lead. Are they going to have any kind of incident here at the bus stop? Doesn't look like they do, but looks like JT Tammy has taken that, and nicely. Very brave into the bus stop there, round the outside, gets the move done. Zalecki unable to defend it. Will he be able to fight back now is the other question.
We did have a short yellow down in sector 1. I don't know exactly what that was for. One thing I do know is that Ross Smith has come into pit lane last time round, so he's the first one to make a pit stop. So Ross Smith has dropped all the way down the order with that in the Hypercar class, but you and I both know, Stephen, that sometimes making that pit stop a little bit early on, getting yourself in some clear air, not fighting with anyone, can actually be, well, beneficial.
It can be, yeah, but I'm looking at the track map at the moment, and already the field is spread out throughout the track. There's not much clear space around at the moment, so he's going to find it difficult to filter back into a bit of clean air. That's the nature of multi-class racing. There's always somebody around to overtake or overtake you. But look at this. JT Tammy has ditched Zalecki like he was in the ARM series or something like that. It's just, he's absolutely disappeared. And now Zalecki is defending, has a car on his inside. They're going to be very tight going into turn 1. Looks like Zalecki has managed to carry the speed around the outside, but he did go off track. Going to have the track position going down into the bus stop. But is that toe going to be strong enough for Vinicius to have another go? But Vinicius may be in danger of losing his position from the guy behind now, which is, I believe, it's a back marker. It's a back marker. Apologies, it's a back marker. But yeah.
Now, this is not the only car going forward at the minute, because we have got, of course, the car of Yuki Takanashi. He's in P9. He's trying to make his way through the fields again. Now, if you're Yuki Takanashi, you know you've got that speed, but I would say they're battling up front for P2. So let them through. That's what I would say.
Oh, it's gone
a big
awfully wrong.
crash. GTP and GT3 into the wall. Calvas and Lewis Heskes were involved in that. Unbelievable. That was, well, it was inevitable really that something was going to happen with how busy it was on that part of the tyre mark there, really. Here we go, we're going to have another look at it. He's tried, let's be honest here. This is on the GTP, I would say. This is on the BMW. You are not, in whatever way, going to make it 3 wide here. Let's be honest, Stephen. This is, in my eyes, not the smartest thing to do.
Yeah, I have to say that's on the GTP as well. I agree fully with that, Dad. It's not the place to make that kind of aggressive kind of manoeuvre. There's too many cars on track, too many cars in front. He just needed to lift and be a little patient. He was trying to get alongside the other GTP and race them alongside a GT3, and we all saw what happened and what became of that. Unfortunate for Vinicius. The passenger, really, once the contact was made between the two GTPs, bumped into him, and yeah, race over. Unfortunate.
Yuki Takanashi, would you say that he was involved in that? Because we have our producer, as always, James Parfit, screaming in our ears, "Get out of the way! Get out!" But I am actually with you.
Right, hold on. You can hear me now. You can hear me.
Okay, there we go.
Takanashi's a blue flag. He needs to jump. He shouldn't have been in that gaggle. Could have moved over and let him through. That's it. That's the end of it. Fair play. Takanashi shouldn't be there. Right, I'm going back off now. Bye.
There we go. That was well. There we go. Normally you'll hear from the producer, but I disagree with James here, because Yuki, if you look at the pace that Yuki at the moment has, look, he's driven away from both Sittelabe, the BMW head bib, and Zalecki. We do get told that there was an accident, but this accident was behind both of the two. So the pace that he has at the moment, just like JT Tammy, tells me that he could have gotten past. And yes, I do agree he should have gotten out of the way, but I also understand why he would be there, because he doesn't want to give that position up because he has to re-overtake them again.
Sounds like I've got the deciding vote here on that one. I have to agree with the big man himself, James. I've got to say, he should have gotten out of the way. You should have gotten out of the way. I'm definitely not scared of James. Sorry. But he should have gotten out of the way. Blue flags mean you've got to make it easy for the cars to pass, and he did not do that. He did not make it easy at all. He made things a lot more difficult for everybody around him. So I've got to say that maybe Yuki, he's not going to get any penalty for that, I don't think. It wasn't directly his fault, but I think it was definitely indirectly involved, and he shouldn't have been. But whether or not he gets a penalty for that is really down to the sim racing stewards here in CMS. But I have to say, I agree with that's the deciding vote. That's done. But I'm going to say I agree with James. It's, blue flags are blue flags.
Here we go. Well there. Well then. It's yeah. So of course. Well, I agree with the fact he shouldn't be there. But what I'm just saying is, I get his thought process, because look where he is now. Like, they're not gaining, even though they are visibly in clean air, both of them. But then again, what you could argue is the fact that if you do have this amount of overspeed, it should be easy for you to overtake them anyways after that. So just get out of the way, make sure that as long as the track is clear and you have this amount of clean air, then you can overtake. But then again, that doesn't still make it correct that a hypercar decides to make it 3 wide at a part of the track where it's difficult enough to run side by side through.
Yeah, I don't think for a moment it's anybody's fault other than the GTP who caused the initial contact trying to make the move, but I do think that Yuki could have made things easier for everybody. If Yuki wasn't there, would that incident have happened is the other question, and that's the ifs and buts that come into racing at times. Ooh, very close to the back of the car in front is Max something lap. I love saying his name, flows off the tongue. Brilliant name. Oh, that's a big punt into the wall on the left hand side, and Max something lap managed to avoid him very barely there. That was very tight, but it looks as though Solecki is running very slow on the inside now. I can barely see, but what's going on here? This is again another back marker, another blue flagged car, maybe not doing everything that they needed to do. As we've got here a replay of it now, and look at that, Solecki. That's unfortunate. We're seeing a lot of people having big incidents here, causing them to drop huge amounts of places. Now, in terms of the GT3 Pros, that means P1 and P2.
Oh, you come out of the pits as well. He came out of the pits as well. Oh, I have a feeling that he's completely unaware that there's a cars on his left-hand side there, because he just turned in like there was no one there.
Yeah, gotta say, that's Vinicius maybe a little bit angry, maybe a bit of red mist after the earlier incident that he was involved with, but he definitely had to move for Solecki then. Solecki's also going to have that red mist to send now. This could turn into a free-for-all. Is this going to be racing, or is this UFC that we're seeing now? Who knows? Let's see what happens. Could be a bit of a punch up in the pit lane here. We're going to see the old Michael Schumacher storming down, ripping earbuds out. Is that the kind of thing we're going to get?
We are in America here, Stephen. So,
wow.
And we know America, NASCAR. You are, I think, allowed even to get into a fight to a certain extent.
I think it's almost encouraged. It's almost encouraging NASCAR, isn't it? If there's not a good punch up afterwards, is it even a race? Who knows? But yeah, NASCAR has a reputation for that. Johnny are now down into P4. Didn't see what happened there, but Magnus Dogger and Wayne Hutchinson have managed to overtake. Maybe down into P5 as I look at the standings here. So a bit of a shuffle in the order of things, but Dan Kirby up a long way, 18 seconds, 16 seconds in front. This is to be down to the pit stops, I imagine, as everybody's starting to come in at different times. Strategies are going to start to come into play. Who's taking tyres? Who's taking more fuel? We'll never know, I suppose, until the race is over and see what's happened. But we can sift through the wreckage, because there's going to be a lot of that by the looks of this race so far.
Well, I think that almost everyone in the Hypercar class has made their pit stop. And in fact, indeed, I can confirm that everyone has made their pit stops at least once. The only driver who's done it twice is Jean-Michel Leroux. So there we go. He's made 2 pit stops already, and he just posted the fastest lap of the race in 1:30.850.
To slightly correct you on that, because Daniel Kirby did a 1:30.7 a few laps ago, so he's got the fastest lap in the race as it stands. But it's interesting to see why Leroux's pitted twice already. I imagine he must have had some damage or something. I must have no other reason to come in so early, is there?
It's down to maybe mediums for Kirby and softs for Leroux. Is that where that pace came from in the early stages of the race too? I have no idea, to be honest. That could be the case, that he's going for a more aggressive, maybe 4-stop instead of 3 stops, or maybe the 2 stops that you can maybe stretch out. So really depending on what the drivers are going to do here, but I think he might be on a more aggressive 4-stop here.
It's a possibility. That could be the reason why he's managed to keep pace with Daniel Kirby for the start, because he maybe was carrying less fuel. We did see a big difference between them, 0.6 in qualifying. Imagine ordinarily that would be a large gap in the early stages if that was the kind of difference you would see in race pace. But Johnny Uyan now all over the back of Matthew Overton here as we come down into the bus stop. Is he going to be able to get him into the bus stop? It's very close to the back, but it doesn't look close enough. It looks like it's going to be a bit of a send. He goes to the inside, gets cut off, and Overton there. Masterclass of defence. We've got a bit of contact here between two GT3s, and a GTP coming through on the inside gets involved as well. It looks as though that's Peter Meyer maybe involved.
Peter Meyer is going very slowly here.
Oh, that was a bit untowards contact. Peter Meyer loses a position there to Stephen Miller, I believe, but Gray, the contact between him and Meyer, and Meyer's lost out a couple of positions because of it. Imagine he just wants to try and calm his race down a bit, Peter Meyer, after his early incident. The very first corner of the first lap he went around, and he's got a lot of work to do still, but up to P5 in his class, and a lot of work still to do though. Should really be leading this as he was starting on pole.
Well, then in that case, what you're saying here, sir, is that Takanashi should be leading the pro field. And I do agree with that, not to put you wrong or anything. We're once again going to go 3 wide for a second. Every time I see 3 wide there now is, yeah, a bit of heart in mouth moment. But I do agree, but it's should have, would have, could have really, because even though you are pole and you are quickest over 1 lap, that first of all doesn't matter in race pace, because you might be quick over 1 lap with your setup, but then the tires fall off after like 2 laps. And secondly, there's so much more that comes into play. Of course, the cars were qualifying in their own classes, so GT3 out on track only and Hypercar out on track only. So it's very different to kind of qualifying. So in a way I agree, but in a way I disagree too. Ken Scott is going to lose that position, or is there going to be contact between the two? Yes, there is, and I think there was enough room on the inside there for Ken Scott. If I see that for the first time, we're really going to have another look at that, because I think for Ken Scott there was enough room on the inside. I think
I'd love to see the replay, and here we are. It did look as like it was a bit of a racing incident. A lot of space left there on the inside, but it looks as also that Hesketh loses it himself and gets a bit of a slide on also. But I don't really think he cut across the line. Let's have a look from this angle. Yeah, a bit of a slide from Hesketh there, and then once he catches it, nowhere for Ken Scott to go. I think that's just maybe a racing incident, but Ken Scott definitely been in the wars at his debut in the VWSC today. But still a long way to go. Lots of positions to be gained for him still.
I think Ken Scott also went in a bit deep into that corner. However, like you said, much a great racing incident. Both of the drivers having a bit of a mistake of their own. That again is causing them to come to contact between the two. John Ewan in P4. Overall, also in P4, Matthew Overton, Magnus Dahlgren and Daniel Kirby ahead of him, and eyeing him from that podium. And it is at the moment that battle between those two, Magnus Dahlgren and Matthew Overton, plus John Ewan now. The Porsche of Matthew Overton in the middle of it all. Where's John Ewan going to place his car? He wants to get past this Lamborghini just like the Porsche does, a bit deep. For a second, almost thought that he was going to run into the back of the Porsche Hypercar. Once again, another Lamborghini in the way. This is Hypercar and multicolor racing at its best.
Certainly is, and we're seeing a lot of very aggressive and strategic moves here from the Hypercars, using the GT3s to try and block and scupper the guy behind's chances of making a move. At the same time here, Ian, especially through the bus stop there, he gains so much time because of the GT3 car holding up Overton, and that kind of thing can really open a door for you that otherwise it wouldn't be open. Sometimes the guy ahead of you gets blocked in, gets trapped by a GT3, and if you're brave enough, you can get alongside them and cause them to move offline and make the overtake open up for you. It definitely looked like John Uyen was trying that there with Overton, but didn't pull it off this time. But those are the kind of moves that sometimes cause absolute mayhem if somebody gets it wrong.
Yeah, must agree with that. However, it is very easy to kind of, and especially in the heat of the moment, just be too quick and wanting that position a bit too quickly. However, someone that is interesting to look at too is, well, he's just passed Tom Lane for P7. Here is that battle between the two. Of course, the GT3 is now coming into pits. Now, this is an interesting one. If you're able to stretch it to lap 31, then that technically means you're able to make it to the end of the race with only one pit stop. Now, do we think, Stephen here, that there is a driver who's going to try that?
I think we'll probably see a mixture of strategies. It'll be at least one person who tries it, but with the tyre degradation around Watkins Glen, and particularly that front left with all of the high-speed right-handers, I don't think the tyres can manage it. So even if you can get the fuel to go that far, I think the tyres are going to be very worn. You're going to be very slow at the end of each of these stints. It will probably be in your best interest to pit for a fresh set of tyres early in the race and maybe take those till the end in a two-stopper. But it remains to be seen. I haven't done a great deal of running with these cars on this track in this sim, so it's going to be interesting to see what people do. But Laurent, at the moment, is making short work of getting back up to where he feels he deserves to be. Very close to the back of the guy in front at the moment, and looking to make it stick on Suvik, as he's probably going to get this done into the bus stop. But there's another car there on the outside. Is that a back marker? I believe it might be, getting out of the way. Wayne Hutchinson, actually, so more positioned.
Oh, got a bit out of shape there. I think Suvik up ahead of us, but manages to gather it back up. Now, look on the bottom left of your screen, the LMGT3 AM graphic in the timing tower. And what do we see there? It is a sight that we're pretty used to here, I have to say, with Peter Meyer leading the way ahead of Bart. Now, Peter Meyer, it's not a given that it's going to win this, but with the strategy that he's doing at the moment, he hasn't made that pit stop yet, so he might be the person who might try that one stop. However, it still has about 7 laps to go, so I don't think anyone actually is going to make that if I see that only, well, it's only him who hasn't pitted yet.
Yeah, he's the only man on track that hasn't graced the pit lane with his presence, but obviously when he does, he'll drop down the order in the arms again, but maybe this is part of his plan. But look at the gaggle of cars that we've got here coming into turn 11. This is a recipe for disaster if I've ever seen one. GT3 cars strewn all over the track, making it an obstacle course for these LMDHs to get through, but get through they do. And the GT3 still fight. This is what I love about multi-class racing. These guys do not care, and they're fighting anyway, regardless. They're still trying to gain positions in their own class while battling with an LMDH at the same time. These guys are giving us a real show here of driving talent and skill. I ordinarily would have expected to see a lot more crashes here. Look at this BMW now getting along the inside here. Going to make a move 3. Why is this going to be? This is going to be absolute disaster if somebody backs up.
Sakanashi is, well, yeah, not going to say. Well, we don't want. I'm not going to word it in that way, like back at it again, because you can see it's got a little bit of a gap now. Let's see if he can increase this gap now. If not, I would say let him pass. There's no way of you needing to be there. So it is actually well, there we go.
Yeah, actually Max got something lap, and James Walker actually there fighting for position. Livery's looking very similar between cars, maybe just a small error there, but what fantastic battling are we seeing here today in this race. People are really, I mean, this is a big difference here between this race and what we saw in Le Mans last time out. People were a lot more conservative, knowing that it was a 4.5 hour long race and that there was plenty of time to do it. People today are thinking, not much time in this one, gotta send it. And these guys are battling hard with each other.
There
we go. Meyer coming into the pits for the first time.
Peter Meyer has finally gone into pit lane. Now, he has run a lot longer than anyone else. So one thing's for sure, if he isn't able to make it on a one stop, his last stop is going to be a lot shorter than the one from anyone else here. So Peter Meyer, immediately after he spun that car round at turn 1, jumped into strategy mode and fuel conserving mode, and that is the way he's now, I think, going to try and win this race. Just try and edge out that pit stop ever so slightly every time, and with that having to make a shorter last pit stop and gaining time automatically, because the easiest time you can gain is time that you're not standing still.
Yeah, those few laps that he ran extra to everybody else, he would have been faster on track than all of the people that he was in a battle with at the time. So get the feeling that he's going to make a few positions here in the pit, but it remains to be seen once he starts to come out where he filters out into it. But currently P4, and boys, I think that's 69 seconds behind, so a bit of a gap there for him to filter in. 31 seconds on my timing ladder at the moment, but Kirby currently absolutely in charge of this race. Leroux, who's already made 2 pit stops, I think that extra pit stop may have been because of a damage or some kind of incident, or maybe he got his stints wrong or his fuel wrong. That could take him out of the running and gift the win to Kirby in the pros for the Hypercars. But Peter Meyer is definitely on a charge. I think he maybe has the ability to get back in there, but it'll be a tall order to win it from here because of the advantage that Barge has, and Mesure as well. Usually Mesure not slow by any stretch. Also getting used here that Lepetri is out of the race. We've got a replay for you now. Managed to bin it himself. Looks like it's the bus stop as well. And yeah, look at that. Loses it. Doesn't get the turn in. And you're just a passenger at that stage, aren't you?
Who's going to pick up that rear wing though is my question. So that might be worth a lot, especially from this McLaren. However, for him it was not worth anything there. On the grass, it doesn't matter if you do have a rear wing, it's the tyres that give up anyways. So no grip at all, and that did show. I think tried to keep the loud pedal on as long as possible to try and lose a minimum amount of time.
That's big damage. He's going to go around again, and hopefully he doesn't collect anybody else as the LMDH there. Big cold brown for them, as it's very difficult to avoid a car out of control in that corner. No idea where they're going to end up, because you saw him sliding out of control there, getting the back end, overtaking the front end. He ended up on the inside of the corner, not the outside, which is very strange. Very difficult to predict for these LMDH cars when they see a GT3 car flying all over the track like that. But that is Lepetri out of the race for good. Our third DNF of the day. Joe Fallas DNF'd on the formation lap. Must have been a technical issue, and John Mayer also out after an incident.
In total, we had 36 cars at the start of this race. We've got 32 of them still in competition, 34, excuse me, because Vinicius Gonçalves, who is indeed behind Jos Lepetri, is still out on track. He is still running. This is Jean-Michel Leroux in the Peugeot. Now, I've never seen a more French combination of a French driver in a French car. The only thing we're missing here is a French track.
Well, that was last week, wasn't it?
Indeed it was. However, he did miss that one. But yeah, I mean, for a debut race, he has definitely shown that he has got what it takes, I think, to take a fight to Daniel Kirby, Magnus Dagen, John Ewan, Timon Suvik, or any of those guys that are up there, really. So he's going to be one to look out for, and he's got to go to pits again.
That's the third stop now for Leroux. That's interesting. The only person to do 3 pit stops as it stands. We've also had a couple of other people come in for their second pit stops. Matthew Overton of Dark Thunder Racing has come in for his second, as has Jason Whitehead, George Angelidis and Ross Smith also, amongst others.
So then into the second phase of pit stops we go now then. Jason, here we see him in that Ferrari 499P.
Winner of the IRL Le Mans last week as well. First time in a long time Ferrari have won a Le Mans, I believe.
50 years.
Exactly.
So
Crazy.
quite a long time. Angelidis, however, trying to stop the Ferrari 499P dominance here in the Acura. The Acura being a very difficult car to control at the minute for him. However, Jason Whitehead has nothing to do with whatever George Angelidis has trouble with. The more trouble George Angelidis has, the better Jason Whitehead is going to find this. Because the easier it'll be for him to overtake him. However, having some trouble himself, as a lot of drivers will have up the hill in turn 9. A bit wide, a better exit though, all over him now. However, he's going to have to set him up, I think, or he's going to have to set himself up for that exit out of turn 1.
It does take a while to set somebody up here at the Watkins Glen, and he's struggling here with traction by the looks of things. And now could be under the caution. That looks like his back marker, I believe, to that white car coming through. Gets out of the way easily.
I think that was the Group 4 coming through, actually.
Yeah, that makes sense. Ross Smith in amongst it as well, but Tom Lane, Sulik, 2.5 seconds between them. Start to see those gaps starting to form now as this traffic becomes more and more difficult to navigate.
He's gone for it. Tom Lane, wow. The inside there of the Acura. Oh.
Back marker is proving to be very difficult for these guys to navigate. There's obviously, they can't just disappear. Got to be there on the track somewhere, but maybe these back markers could make it a little bit easier. Ross Smith now on Jason Whitehead, B11 and 12, battling for position. This is Ross Smith in the purple car. It's a back marker in front of him. Aha, okay, so just to confirm here then, Tom Lane in the purple, Ross Smith in the blue and white, and one of these has been lapped. It is Ross Smith, so trying to get around the back markers here, proving difficult, like I say, as, yeah, look at that, very, very tight there for Tom Lane. He gets it done. Ross Smith not making it easy. Blue flags, contentious subject. As always, the blue flags in a multi-class race, but obviously Ross doesn't want to lose too much time himself, wants to make sure his own race is working well for him, but Tom Lane gets through into P3.
Has it really been a multi-class race if you haven't touched on the blue flag thing, really? So, yeah, no, I don't think it has. Don't know what your opinion on that is. Let us know in chat what your opinion on it is. Is it really an endurance race if the commentators haven't pointed out the blue flag rule or the back marker thing? Tom Lane, I knew it was Tom Lane somewhere in there. I did see his distinctive purple livery in that Porsche, so I knew at some point Tom Lane was in there. Turns out he's lapping everyone already. Yeah,
as well the other guys in the top, but John Ian P2, Tom Lane P3 at the moment, Timon Suvak in P4, Magnus Dahlgren in P5. These guys, Suvak for example, has already done his second pit stop. The guys ahead have only done the one, so also Dahlgren and Norm Graff still on the one pit stop also. So it'll be interesting to see how this all shakes up once everybody's got their second pit stop in. I'm very interested to know what's going on with Leroux. He seems very rapid, but his strategy is looking to be leaving a lot to be desired really at the moment. It's cost him big, down in P8 at the moment with his third stop already in. Nobody else is stopping as often as he is. I'm wondering whether or not his pace is coming from the fact that he's running much less fuel and changing tyres more often.
Well, we're going to see at the end of the race, really, what his tactic was, as Tom Lane now finally pulls into pit lane. There we go. He's going to be making his second pit stop as well. Daniel Kirby, John Ewan still have to do that. Behind that, it is Alexander Schultz, who also only has made one pit stop, plus Norm Graff, and that is all of the Hypercars that have only made one pit stop. And we get down to the GT field, where Peter Meyer is on an absolute banger of a lap at the minute. 25.5 in the first sector, 41.2 in the second sector, improving in both of them. So he might be up to a quicker lap time, a personal best lap time for himself, which would be good. Last time out, an improvement for Max Suntelop. He did a 1:47.383. Let's see what Peter Meyer can put in this lap. P4 in his class. Still, however, a long time to go and a lot of time to gain still for Peter Meyer.
Yeah, big gap from him to Miller in front of him, 14-15 seconds that gap, and then an even bigger gap from him to Eugene Mesure and Stuart Barge, who's currently leading the category in the Acura, sitting pretty at the moment with a nice 7-second gap.
last time round for Peter Meyer. So a good lap, like I said, was on a roll.
Yeah, he's looking rapid at the moment, but we expect this from him nowadays. He's had a few good races in the last few outings, and yeah, he's looking to recover a poor start. And yeah, he got involved in a couple of other little bonks and bashes here and there as he tried to make his way back through. But currently sitting in a nice bit of clean air, and has got time to gather his thoughts and gather his pace for the charge into the top 3, maybe.
Oh, it's a bit wide though from Peter. That's not where you want to be going. I think was a bit scared of the hypercar that all of a sudden came up behind him. Didn't really pay attention. I think his rear mirror zoned out, like I said, maybe. And all of a sudden saw a big purple car coming up behind him and shooting up his inside. This is Adam Gray on the back of Mike Boos.
This is a battle for position for 30th then. Mike Boos and Adam Gray in contention with each other. Great. Very wide line there. So Jean-Michel Laureau, we're getting information here that he had a stop and go penalty for speeding in the pit lane. So that is an interesting one. That's why he's had that third stop, and could possibly, well, it's almost definitely going to cost him any chance of a podium or even the win here. I mean, the win is probably long gone. Maybe he can fight back for a podium, but it's going to be a tall order with an extra stop. But he's only 2.2 seconds, or 2 seconds behind Wayne Hutchinson, who dropped a couple of positions earlier in his Porsche 963 in a tight battle there, but it looked as though maybe he was just giving up the positions. Didn't want to get involved in any elbows out battling, just wanted to keep his race nice and steady, and gave up 2 positions to Yuan and Overton earlier, I believe it was. But Laureau currently looking to make short work of him, already down to 1 second, 1.2 seconds that gap, so he's definitely the quicker man on track at the moment. Yeah, it was 6 seconds faster last lap. Not sure, well, that must have been traffic for Hutchinson.
Yeah, I was going to say, that must have been a bit of traffic there, because 6 seconds on pace, I don't think is the case here. There's Laureau, also apparently a Dutchman. So that explains why he's so fast as well then.
Seems to run in Dutch blood, does it?
Well,
it's now the time to point out that the majority of F1 winners have been British.
Ah, there we go.
How many? How many Dutch drivers have won a championship in F1? And how many British drivers have won a championship in F1?
Now, how many British drivers have there been in Formula 1? And how many Dutch drivers have there been in Formula 1? The participation to championship conversion rate for a Dutch driver is technically 50% or something.
Well, suggests that the only Dutch drivers to have ever been involved in F1 are Jos Verstappen and Max Verstappen.
No, of course not.
Yeah, Jos definitely didn't quite live up to the standards that Max is setting these days. I fully expect him to get another pole this evening in the F1. But Jean-Michel Laureau didn't get his pole today, but he's definitely all over the back of Hutchinson and got him done. Sorry, apologies. Tuned out for a second there. But look at this. Look at how close they get to the GT3s as they overtake them.
Non-Graf and Angelija is... Oh, Non-Graf. You're not going to send it up the inside of the chicane, are you? No, he's not good. Because if you do send it there, that means usually you'll overshoot that first part. And the problem is, you either have to go onto the grass where there's 1, no grip. 2, you'll not be able to turn the car anywhere because the car will be stuck to its trajectory that it got when you entered the grass. and really that usually means that you end up somewhere in a wall. And secondly, of course, if you do not go over the grass and you go over the curbstone, then you do get up high. Norm Graf though gets it done, gets up into P9, that number 1 car, chasing down that number 1 spot. However, is a long way back in P9.
What a move
30.
that was, though. You've got to say that was very brave. He took advantage of the understeer from the car in front and just sent it mid-corner, got the inside line, made it stick very easily. Fantastic.
Well, now on to the next starter frame, I would say, which is Tom Lane. However, Tom Lane, I think that Porsche is going to be a bit difficult to pass. All drivers now having made their second pit stop. So,
yeah, next one is actually Ross Smith for Norm Graf. He's got a 4.3 second gap to make up to get to him, and it's a 27 second gap to Wayne Hutchinson. Everybody's pretty much made the 2 pit stops, with the exception of Laurent, the resident Dutchman, who has made 3 because he had a stop and go penalty. Still fighting through the field here at the moment. Got past Wayne Hutchinson quite easily and is now looking to catch up to the back of Overton. It'll be a different kettle of fish altogether. Overton has been much quicker than Hutchinson in this race so far. A lot harder to make that overtake. Norm Graf showing us how it was done, how it's done with a beautiful move in turn 7, I believe. Sorry, yeah, 7 it was.
Ken Scott, it's just been lapped by them. Ken Scott on the overall table, however, is down at P26. This is behind some of the GT3, so Ken Scott has been in the wars a little bit in this race. So bless him. It's been a difficult one. As you look at the left-hand side, you can now see the overall tables, and that means that John McHutchinson, and there you can see John McHutchinson, P9 overall, but leading in the AM class. So he's doing a great job. Wayne Hutchinson, I have to say. I did say John McHutchinson. It's another driver from a different series. But no, it is Wayne. It is Wayne Hutchinson. There we go.
Lars Linda's in chat there saying that I am uneducated about Dutch F1 drivers, which I can't deny for sure. I don't know that many of them because there aren't that many Dutch F1 drivers to know about, to be honest. But feel free, Dan, you're Dutchman yourself. Educate me. Educate me. You think he was talking about you? Okay.
Yeah.
That makes more sense then. Yeah.
So educate me. Well, anyways, I can educate you, but you know the amount of success that we as Dutch drivers have had in Formula 1, it would take years and years for me to educate you about all the Dutch drivers. So we'll leave that to another time, and we'll get back to the racing on track. Definitely not because I don't know half of the drivers myself, anyways. Norm Graf in P10, he has dropped down again.
So in our little earbuds there as well, there have been 17 Dutch drivers in total since 1992.
Our producer is very quick Googling, isn't he?
Certainly is. We're lucky to have him in the background doing all the legwork and donkey work for us, but Jason Whitehead, board with him here, and looks like he's getting very close to the back of a rival. Willem Bank, apologies, and Whitehead in front. But, we're starting to see big gaps forming here in this race today, but the biggest one at the moment is that one between Daniel Kirby and Timon Suvic, who is 25 seconds around about at the moment between P1 and P2. So Kirby would definitely need Laurent here for the next one without a penalty in order to challenge this man. He seems to be absolutely dominating this series as it stands. Can anybody touch him now?
It's gonna depend on how this race is gonna play out. Still about 20 laps to go, a little bit over 20 laps. So traffic can still play into big parts here, and you never know.
Not sure why we've lost Dan mid-sentence there, but we'll see. Well, hopefully he comes back, but we've got a battle here between John Uyan and Magnus Dahlgren in the meantime. John Uyan looking very rapid and starting to turn the screw a little bit on Dahlgren here, try and force a mistake, and this is when it starts to become fairly dangerous when you get around the GT cars, when you're battling so hard for position like these two are. Ooh, big slip there from John Uyan. He manages to catch it. Beautifully done, you've got to say. What epic car control that was. It looked like you had a big swapper on there, and you managed to drift it into turns 6 and 7 there. We will bring our resident producer in here at the moment to try and take over from Dan, who we seem to have lost for the time being. Not sure what's happening here, but yeah, round the outside though, John Uyan goes. We'll put that pause on that as we got the battle on track. As it doesn't manage to get it done. Look at the great defensive work there from Dahlgren. He gets to the inside here, and we've got a car sideways and backwards on the track in the middle, and another one on the outside here. Yellow flags mean this race is put on hold for a little while, and then they're back at it. Not sure what happened there. Maybe we'll get a replay, will we, James?
Yeah, we're trying to. I think that was Matthew Overton having a little bit of a ta-ta-ta. So let's have a look and we'll see if we can see that now. No, I think that was.
Oh, that's a bad rejoin, isn't it? That's a horrible rejoin. He's done a spin back on the track. That's Louis Hesketh. Oh, that's unfortunate.
Oh no, somebody's already gone. They both got together.
Oh, it looks like the guy in front's lost it. The guy behind is trying to save it from hitting him and has lost it anyway, regardless. That is very unfortunate.
Hesketh, and then there's a very terrible rejoin in the whole of the process here. And I've got a funny feeling that there goes Hesketh on his rejoin. I'm just wondering if this is Felipe Enrique's rejoin that doesn't do anyone any favours, and just waiting for him to make his move. Come on, dear sir, where are you going? There we go. And that's John Meyer.
Oh, he took out 2.
Yes, one more, and that one. So in all process, there was 3 or 4 cars, all been unfortunately taken out there by Felipe Enrique.
I think somebody's about to get slapped very hard across the chops with the rule book after this race. After that one, it was a very poor rejoin, you've got to say. But we move on, and Meyer is not going to be very happy with that. He was on a good charge to get back anyway, and maybe that's damaged his car a little bit. It's now going to be making it even harder for him to get back into the swing.
Enrique's in the pits as well. So that was Uyan and Dahlgren got through. So that was Uyan. That was basically Felipe Enrique was in there. Also, Louis Hesketh was involved in that. There was the Mercedes of Peter Meyer was also involved in that as well. And there was one more involved in that, and I believe that may have been Matthew Overton. So all in all, 4 drivers involved with an incident that involved Felipe Enrique.
Yeah, Matthew Overton down in P11 now at the moment, behind George Angle, leaders by 23 seconds. Lost a lot of time with that. Jean-Michel Leroux will be very happy with that. He's now back up to P5, and there's a battle here between Johnny and Dahlgren that's been going on some time now, but we are just unable to get this one to stick, and it keeps getting put on hold, doesn't it? He gets close, and then the GT3 car comes along and puts a spanner in his works, and but he looks much faster at the moment than Dahlgren, but Dahlgren defending for his life.
Yeah, the problem for them is they've got Jean-Michel Leroux behind them. There they are. There's Leroux in the bottom of the picture. He's coming through as well. So they haven't got a massive gap because there's Johnny Uyan there. It's just he needs to clear this GT3 going into turn 8 here. He does manage to get through. So they can resume their battle. That's a back marker involved in that as well. That was one of the back markers that were caught up in the incident earlier on, and I'm trying to find who that actually is there. I wonder if that's actually Brian Hall was the... No, it wasn't. I'm not so sure who that was in the middle. But there is a car in the middle from Uyan looking back at that car. I can't quite see who it is. But that's a back marker in the middle there from Leroux, who's in front of him.
Yeah, not sure myself either. I need to find the right number on track. It looks like it might be.
That's Matthew Overton. Yeah, Overton was caught up in the incident with Felipe Enrique. He's obviously, I'm not quite sure what the process would be here because he's clearly looking to try and get past John Uyan, and that will be a slap on the wrist from Matthew Overton. But trying to overtake the top 4, why you are 1 lap down and trying to do it in there.
I mean, it's a risky move to make any time in the bus stop, even for position. So when the guy that you're racing against doesn't even expect it because you've got a blue flag all over your name on the relative, it can be even more dangerous. But obviously Overton doesn't care about any of this. He wants to just be as quick as he possibly can, but I doubt he would ever be able to get away from Uyan, so possibly better off just letting these guys through and then carrying on his race without battling anybody and losing all of that time fighting people who he's not even on the same lap on. We've got a yellow flag in sector 2, not sure what's happening there, but all of this battling and problems here between Uyan and Dahlgren means that Leroux is catching quick, and he's now on the back of these already, and this fight's getting a little bit more interesting now. Look at that gap now between Uyan after that incident, getting held up there. Potentially, it's pushed him right back into Leroux, and these guys pretty close on pace.
Yeah, I don't get this from Overton. Like, I understand he wants to have a go, right? But you are a lap down, and you have got Leroux, who is 5th. You got Uyan, who's 4th, and you got Dahlgren, who's 3rd. Now, what he really didn't need to be doing is what he's probably going to have a good old go at trying to do here, and do this into the bus stop. I'm not quite sure what the process is. You are blue flag. I don't think you need to be really doing anything apart from staying where you are. Just stay. You might be loving the fact that you're quicker and you're doing all this fancy stuff, but you're getting in the way from people battling, and at that point I'm a very much of a hold station, please don't go anywhere, because you're not going to improve out. You're a lap down for a reason. You're not being amazing by coming back through the field. You're not going to win the race. You are literally trying to get in the way and slow other people down here. So I'm not quite sure what Overton's up to, and I, if I was the stewards, I would be politely in his ear saying, done what you're doing, apart from getting in the way.
Did back out of it there into turn 8, I believe it was, and braked early into the heel, gave the position to Leroux. But Leroux there, you saw that earlier, into the bus stop, Leroux defended it very hard and just said, no, you're not coming up the inside here. But Leroux coming into the pits now and gets himself out of that gaggle of cars, and probably for the best, really, considering what was going on there with a back marker looking to send it up the inside, left and right. Did back out of it a couple of times, but I have to say, Leroux defended the inside line hard. Just said, no, just stop it, please, into the bus stop. I don't want you to send it into the bus stop. I'm trying to have a battle with Uyan. Now he comes into the pits for his 4th stop, I believe it is, and lets Uyan go, and maybe he just wants Overton to give Uyan the treatment that he just got.
Yeah, I don't get it. Like, you're never going to make it through the bus stop too wide, right? One of you's going to end up going off. It's logic. It's not driver skill, it's logic. It's the point of the fact that you're trying to squeeze 2 into a very tight corner, and on the right-hand side of one of you, there is a very tight wall. So unless you're going to 90-degree that corner, you're never going to get through the bus stop too wide. And if you're a back marker attacking... Go on, Steve. Tell me different.
I have gone too wide through the bus stop before. It's extremely dangerous. A lot of poo came out, and it's risky. But yeah, 9 times out of 10 you're going to make contact, or at least door bang through there as well. And it's just totally unnecessary, like you say, when you're blue flags. Oh. Yes, you can overtake. Ooh, we've got a bit of argy-bargy there going ahead. But look at this, Overton all over the back of Uyan now. He seems to have taken tyres in his last pit stop and is much quicker than these guys. Got BMW on the inside there coming into the pits. Not sure who that is, but I don't understand it either, I have to say. I am at a loss for words as to why Overton here, looking to the inside. I mean, what are you hoping to do? If you get past Uyan, he's going to overtake you again with a toe. You can't get away from him. You're about the same pace. You're going to have to overtake him and then go around a full lap, catch him again in order to race him. But look at this, look at the block here from the GT3.
I don't get it.
This is totally or wholly unnecessary, like you say, and it's just adding to the danger and risk. Why does he need to fight this? Absolutely no reason for it.
If he takes out John Uyan, right, and if he is in the next race, I would be very surprised, because of the fact that A, you're down laps, B, you've just taken out somebody in 4th place, And C, you're really going to annoy me if that happens, because I have no reason whatsoever to justify the fact that you're there. I just don't get this. You know what I mean? Maybe we're looking at a different picture. I'm not entirely sure. I am seeing a red car in 4th place ahead of a black and white one that is all the way down. Where is Matthew Overton?
Yep.
He's 8th place, right? So from that point of view, I don't get why he's there. And from that point of view, he's obviously there for a reason. But why you're attacking 4th and trying to take him too wide into a very tight bus stop, I really do not understand it. Partly due to the fact as well, his next one up the road is Jean-Michel Leroux, Leroux is now coming into the bus stop. Overton's just coming around the last corner, so it's not exactly like he's close and he's going to catch him. It's 31-second gap. I don't get this situation. I don't know. I would just use John Huyan to tow me into Leroux. I think that's probably more of a smart thing to do, I think, Steve.
Ooh, big swapper there from Overton there. He gets onto the curb a bit too aggressively out of turn 1, and looks like now he's got a problem because somebody else is in his way. Looks like that may be Hesketh, possibly. I'm not sure. But now he's getting a taste of his own medicine, battling somebody who he's not really battling with for position. But a penalty has come in for Max Sunkenlap. He's received a drive-through penalty for track limits. So we might start seeing that come into play a little bit for a few drivers who have been unable to keep it within the white lines. Those penalties, those track limits add up eventually and start adding to these drive-through penalties.
Yeah, okay, so putting it into perspective, this is Jean-Michel Leroux, and that was Norm Graff, right? They've just made contact, so he's off. Right, so let's put it into perspective for you, Josh. Right, he is currently 1 lap down, 30 seconds away from Norm Graff. Norm Graff's coming along the start-finish line. Overton is in turn 9. Okay, so he's a lap down and he's 30 seconds behind the guy in front. Does he need to be battling the 4th place in front of him? And does he need to be sending him too wide into the bus stop? Well, I can tell you the answer for that one. It's no. He doesn't need to be doing that. And as I say, if he doesn't get a slap on the wrist at the end of this for trying to do that, I would be very surprised. But we can enjoy a nice little battle here with Brian Hall having a go at Alexander Schultz. And this is for position, and this is for 10th and 11th.
Yeah, looking like no love lost between these two either in this battle. But yeah, got to say, Overton will definitely look to be getting a slap on the wrist. But from the same point, if play devil's advocate in that situation, if he is faster than Huyan, should Huyan move out of the way and let him go? Bearing in mind,
does he have to?
That he doesn't have to, but maybe it's best for his race as well. The other side of that is that Huyan was lapping around about the same pace. In fact, a few tenths quicker than Overton, so I'm wondering whether or not Overton could ever make that move, even if they were fighting for position. I think Overton would maybe struggle to keep that move, to make that move stick. And a lot of puffs of dust coming up from the bus stop, so tricky set of corners as well.
Yeah.
There, but
Brian
Hall and Alex Schultz, looks like Hall's got past and is dropping him very quickly, so looks to have the pace. Look at the slide that people get on through this turn 6 here as well. It looks very difficult to control the cars through there. You get a lot of understeer, oversteer, everything at once through there with the camber of the track. Apologies, turn 7. Sorry, no, it was turn 6, right the first time. I'll figure out how to count one day, James, don't worry.
That's all right, mate. You know what I mean? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you need to borrow my toes, you know what I mean, you're fine, all right? I know there's only got 11 corners in it. If you just need to get through, I'm there with you. A lap and a half. Yikes, exactly. That's my point with Johnny, and well, he's in the pits now as well. So Tom Lane's coming in. Magnus Dahlgren is still on a run round, exactly. So there you go. That is why I do not like that scenario. You say he's a lap and a half down. Does he really need to be involved? Absolutely not. And if he takes out John Huyan, who is now in second, I think John may have something to say to him. Like, why are you there? Because, you know, that's what I would say. Like, what are you trying to achieve?
Probably say something similar, but maybe not quite as politely. But
yeah, that's
that is
my
nature when I'm behind a car. Lots of people, I turn into a totally different animal when I'm behind the wheel of a car. You should see me around the streets of Newcastle. The road rage, oh, it's unbelievable. It's Brian Hall and Schultz going
That's Uyan. Uyan's just come out
That's
of the
that's
pits.
Uyan.
That's Schultz and Hall, but they are a lap down. Practically a lap down on Uyan. They've just managed to unlap themselves. Mind you, Uyan has just come out of the pit, so I'm not expecting them to be there for very long. And now it begs the question of, should Subic be getting out the way to allow second place? Well, no, he's not. Where are you, John? You're in sixth. No, you're not. That's Kirby's just come out of the pits. So it begs the question of the fact that you've got the leader right beside you. You're just about to be lapped. Blue flags, slower car, and all I can really say to the end of this sentence, Steve, is move.
I think sometimes you've got to put a bit of onus on the car overtaking to make sure that it gets done. It's cleanly, it looks like here he's just sticking to his racing line, and eventually Kirby does make the move easy as you like. But look at the traffic. Oh, there's a car off in front. That looks like a BMW. I cannot tell.
Ken Scott in the Peugeot.
The Peugeot who's gone off. Day to forget for him. A few of the newcomers today. Trial by fire, really. Is you want to not try and hit the generators on the side of the track, to be honest. They hurt at times. A bit of a bad rejoin there as well, I suppose. He's come back right onto the racing line. I suppose he had nowhere else to go, but we should have waited, I suppose, for those cars to come through. But if one of those guys had to slam the brakes on the racing line there on the apex there, that would be very dangerous. But a bit of a battle here going on between Lauro and Dahlgren. Dahlgren has been putting on an absolute masterclass of defensive driving so far. Has Lauro got the keys to unlock this door? Let's find out.
Yeah, that's what you see. Felipe Enrique, I'm proud of you. Slow down in turn one, let them run around the outside, and he's picking up. Mind you, I'm surprised he will not get a penalty. The fact that he took out 4 cars last time, so, you know, all in all.
He just doesn't want to add another 20 seconds of penalties on the 4.5 minutes that he's already going to get. So.
I'm expecting a deep stop and go for Felipe Enrique in the next one, maybe even a stop and hold. Because, yeah, 4 cars and all. But if you're going to do it, you know, don't do it by half. You might as well do it properly, I guess, from Enrique's point of view.
Well, at the same time, you don't judge the penalty based on the outcome of the incident, just the incident itself. So a bad rejoin is a bad rejoin, whether you take out 1 person or 12. It's still the same penalty most of the time, because if you start putting penalties based on the outcome of what happened, then you start a really it's just a door that you don't want to open. Really, that it can cause major issues when you start looking into penalising people based on this. Contact, they get away with it though, just about get away with it there. That was putting your nose where it doesn't belong there from Lauro, and I think he realised that, he backed out of it, but just not quick enough. But they survive for another go.
The thing is, I'm not quite sure where he expected Dahlgren to go there, you know what I mean? I'm pretty sure I didn't see a wand waving out of Dahlgren's car there to evaporate off to some other part of the racetrack. You know, he ain't a Houdini, he can't just disappear there. So for Lauro, sticking your nose on the inside,
that's what's known as the vortex of danger, isn't it? If you put your nose into the vortex of danger and you get it cut off, it's pretty much your own fault. And I think that is something that you have to kind of do at times. You've got to be a bit aggressive with where you position that nose of the car. You've got to sometimes make that guy in front get offline. Bit of dust picked up there on the inside of the final corner of the bus stop there. He's really pushing now, is Lauro. He's a man on a mission at the moment. He wants that position, he wants that podium, and it is something worth fighting for. But you've got to sometimes, as I say, put your nose where it doesn't belong to try and put the willies up the guy in front, make him go wide, make him make a mistake. And now that he's done that once, Dahlgren is now thinking, I've got to be wary of this guy behind me. But look at this traffic that we've got here. We've got a GT3 and a backmarker ahead.
That's Georgia Angelidis.
So making it difficult for these guys to have a fight here. Angelidis not getting out of the way. He's doing what he needs to do. Stays on the racing line.
Come on.
It's making it very difficult. But looking around the outside, taking advantage is Lauro, but he hasn't got the grip out there. Inside line is just too good. But going to let him through? He is. He goes wide.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure that was easily done by Mr. Angelidis on that one. I do love you, George, and everything else, but yeah, probably not the most easiest way of allowing the leaders through. But you know, as you can see here with Lauro still out in front, flying along, trying to get onto the back of Dahlgren, and he's doing a pretty good job of it so far.
He's going to force the mistake sooner or later. 50 laps out of 61 at the moment. Obviously, one of those is the formation lap. But this is proving very difficult. Look at the ends. He tries to defend the inside. This is going to be a very difficult move to get done. How brave? Who's going to be the bravest? Who's going to break the latest? Looks like the inside man has it done, and there is eventually contact, and they almost survive again. They are really riding their luck with this one. Very, very dangerous, that bus stop. One has got to back out, but Dahlgren doesn't have to. I mean, he's defending his position. He's being brave. I would do the exact same thing in his position. I would not give that. I'd defend the inside, make it difficult. But Jean-Michel Leroux definitely has the pace here. Definitely turn the screw and amp up that pressure. Sooner or later, this is going to come to a head.
Yeah, and it's probably not going to come to a nice head, I don't think, either. The way these two are fighting, I wouldn't be surprised if it does come to a head, but not in a good way. Let's hope it doesn't, because it looks like they're, from Dahlgren's point of view, he had a slow turn 9, 10 or 11, but yeah, the battling's been fun, if nothing else. The back markers, you know, that car's always going to drift out there. So he tried to get out on the inside, didn't he, really? So that was a stunning job. I think that was Lazicki on that one, wasn't it, if I'm not mistaken?
Sudik now all over the back, and he's involved, and this is for position. He goes for the inside and doesn't get it. They end up squeezing him out again, but it looked like there was maybe a little bit of contact there. Sudik catches us up to the back of this battle, and now it's all or nothing. It gets past there as well in the S's, and makes that move stick. He's done well there, you have got to say. Sudik to take advantage of the poor exit that Jean-Michel Leroux got after trying to go around the outside of a GT3 car, but he's coming back at him now into the bus stop, but backs out of it just before the end there. Probably rightly so. It's, as we've just seen it the lap prior, very dangerous to go side by side through bus stop.
Yeah, I think that's do you know, I'm in the boat that I love Watkins Glen, right? I think it can produce great racing, but there's certain points on this circuit where I sit back as a driver and think, I'm never going to try it here. Unless I can wrap up an overtake, going up through the S's and onto that back straight, if I can't wrap it up by the time I get to that bus stop, because I know how important that line is against the wall, right? If I can't wrap it up before I get into where I need to be to take my line, I would back out and think, okay, I could have a go somewhere else, right? That's fair enough. I wouldn't jeopardize where I am on track just for the sake of trying to move up one position. This is probably why I'm not very aggressive, because I just don't feel the need to be jeopardizing. I'd rather finish the race in 4th than crap.
Oof. There's a bit of a carbon fibre disappearing from that BMW GT3 there at turn 1. That looked a bit naughty from the GTP, did it not? He kind of came back onto the racing line thinking he'd cleared the GT3, but hadn't.
Yeah, I'm trying to see who that is in front of Subic here. Let's actually catch the number. I don't think we're going to, no matter where I put this camera, I don't think I'm going to be able to see who that was.
I think it might be Tom Lane. No, it's not.
No,
it's not Tom Lane.
Apologies. Oh, that's
It's
not. Oh, my blimey, that isn't him again. No, it's not Matthew Overton. Okay, cool. Who is that?
Magnus.
No.
No. Very hard to see on my very tiny little track map at the moment, but I'll try and find out for you. Carry on.
Yeah, that's the row. There he is there. Ah, that's Gullenbank. Gullenbank in the Hypercar AMS. There we go.
Certainly is, yeah. Still a lap down on the leader, Wayne McHutchinson. So what's he battling for? It's an odd one.
I'm not really sure. I don't get it. Like, I get this.
Back to Watkins Glen as a track, though. Just to come back to your point earlier, I think the main problem with the track as a race track is it gives all of the advantages to the defending car and none to the attacking car. There's not many corners here where you can try it around the outside and it will give you the inside to the next corner. The only real one is the outer loop, so that one, the wrong right-hander after the bus stop chicane. If you go around the outside, it'll get the inside into turn 6, but it's almost impossible to stay alongside around that long looping right-hander. Nigh on impossible. So we are starting to get some very big battles here. Subic Dahlgren here, going to the
Subik
inside
and Dahlgren.
again into the bus stop. Backs out of it once more.
This
Again,
is-
probably for the best.
Yeah, this is second, third, fourth, and fifth here. That's Lane, Dahlgren, Subik, and Leroux. All battling it out for second, third, fourth, and fifth. So this is a nice little tiny battle, and they're all separated by about a second, give or take, at the moment.
Between all four cars as well, that is, mind as well. So big, exciting battle for us here. Interestingly, Ian has dropped off these guys massively. He's going to start to catch up to them because they're slowing each other down at being so close together, and that could turn it into a 5-car battle in the end. But it's interesting to see that Ian has dropped so far back from these guys. I'm wondering whether or not he's maybe picked up a spot of damage on his travels.
Yeah, I'm wondering the same thing there. But was involved obviously with Matthew Overton. We saw the little wall clash at the bus stop chicane, which isn't ideal. But I am surprised Tom Lane has managed to drop himself into this. He has lost a chunk of time to these guys, and unfortunately, Subik's going to dive the inside. Leroux's all out of shape. Oh, sideswipes that Peugeot there, and nearly gets himself in deep, deep trouble. We have lost Stephen, boys. We have lost Mike, boys. I can show you what happened to Stephen, and I'll see if I can find where Mike is. But this is what happened to, well, I won't show you at the moment because these guys are battling away here going into the bus stop. So let's allow them to get through as Leroux runs on the grass.
Yeah, that's not the line. Let's put it mildly. Excuse me. But
let's have a look at the Stephen Boyce.
Yeah.
Oh no. That is Matthew, that is Gwilym Bank. That is Boyce and Bank. Oh, that's
that is a big accident. They've collected another GT3 there as well.
Yeah, that's, do you know who that collected, right?
Was it Meyer again? Please don't tell me.
No, I've got a funny feeling that was actually, it was involved with Stephen, right? Here. And then if I'm not mistaken, that was also Stephen Miller coming up the hill and into that one.
Oof. Big, big accident. That is the danger of the S's. We said at the beginning of the race that there was going to be an incident hot spot as well. And you see there, the GT3 car probably just squeezed the GTP, or the LMGT, whatever you want to call them, the Hypercar, onto the curb and over the curb onto the grass as well. We saw a bit of dust pop up. This battle starting to get very tense, and gets a bump from Leroux behind as well. It looks like Leroux is going to let him come back on track, give him that position back. That's great sportsmanship from Leroux there. Did give him a tap and then gave him it back. But what a battle we've got going on here. We've got a back marker in front of them as well. By the looks of things, the white and blue car is
Ken Scott, sorry.
Ken Scott, who's going to find it very difficult to get out of these guys' ways. He just goes off track in order to do so. Oh, he's come back on very dangerously there. I thought he was going to at least pull to the left-hand side and get out of everybody's way, but looks like he's running chicane at the moment. He's an absolute roadblock. What are you doing, Mr. Scott? You just eventually get out of the way, lets the guy... I'm not sure who it was that gets down the inside, but... it's a dangerous position. It's a tense position. He's going to cause an accident here again. But it's a tense position to be in as this car, as Mr. Scott, seeing all these cars bear down on you and not knowing where to put your car to get out of the way. The answer is pull off the racing line and lift. Let them all through.
Yeah,
if you're that scared,
just let
them through.
He's lost it. You are causing more of an issue. I'm sorry, but you know we're unbiased up here in the booth apparently, and yet. What are we, right, this is the situation, okay? Now listen everyone, right? I'm not going to lie here. We are here to call...
just send it.
Yeah, we are here, that's what I mean. We're here to call the action, and if we see driving standards of this, I'm going to call you out, and I'm sorry. And I might end up in the stewards with Ross and George, but you've got to get out the way. And if you're running on the grass, go left. Don't oh my God, I can't even do this now. I'm going to end up losing my marbles if I carry on here.
Just breathe, James. Just breathe. Don't worry.
I know, but have you seen some of this?
Absolutely. It is... we are only human at the end of the day, I suppose. We're only human, but it's caused mayhem here. It's created this 5-car battle that we once had a lap ago is now turned into two car battles. It's
No,
kind of broken up this battle heavily. Leroux is now 41 seconds behind as well. He's in the pits, so I imagine he's maybe got a bit of damage and maybe just wanted to get out of the way of all of this. Wanted to get a bit of a breather, really. Didn't want to be involved with it anymore. I can certainly understand that. Sunton Lap is currently all over the back of P2, I believe it is.
Yeah, James Walker. Sorry, James Walker.
In the pros, so that's James Walker. So this is for position P2 in the Pro GT3s. P1's long gone. JT Tammy 30 seconds up the road, but these guys will definitely still want to be racing this. He's going to go for the inside into the bus stop. This is going to be dangerous. He's got the inside line though, so this is the better line to have. Definitely going to stick with it. And yeah,
job done.
James Walker gives it up, and I don't know why he didn't defend that. He probably could have kept that position if he defended it. Probably just didn't fancy it. Just thought, I can't beat this guy. Let's just follow him around for a bit.
Yeah, it must be the name, James, because I would have done the same thing. I'm sorry, I would have moved out of the way. I'd have gone, all right, Sam, carry on.
Are you suggesting that all Jameses are too cautious of drivers? What about Jamies? Are they involved in that?
I don't know, but to be honest with you, we're probably cautious in general, purely because we just don't. I'd rather finish.
I think it's.
And the thing is with that, you know how important it's finishing in iRacing, right? You know, you've got your IR, your SR, and God knows whatever if you lose in the process. And I just.
Brian Hall and Schultz here, sorry to interrupt, having a bit of a ding-dong battle here. And it looks like Brian Hall's going to send it and get the move done just about. Or is it Schultz on Hall? I'm not sure.
It's Schultz on Hall, I think. Hall is in the black and white, Schultz in the white and orange.
Yeah, so Hall gets the move done on Schultz, and these guys have been battling for a while now. I think they might be sick of the sight of each other right now, but great racing there between the two of them around other GT3 cars as well. So that's how it's done.
Unless you make a mistake like that, like Schultz, and goes in a little bit hot. So
yeah, that'll overheat his tyres a little bit. He's going to have to take it, cool them off for the next couple of corners, brake a little early. Get a little later on the gas as well, so that could be that battle over eventually. That's taking a while. Yuki Takanashi just got overtaken by Stephen Miller. Not sure why or how. It looks like maybe Takanashi's had an incident, but who's this? We've got Barge. But Eugene Monsieur has just taken the lead on the AMGT3s here from Barge as well. Barge, who's been leaving the race for the majority of the time here, gets mugged in the final two laps.
What is also interesting is that people are going in the pits here. John Uyan's just literally come out of the pits. Wayne Hutchinson's gone into the pits. Norm Graff's gone into the pits. Yuki Takanashi's gone into the pits. Ross Smith is also on his way in as well. So people have proper mistimed their pit stops here and fuel consumption because he's going in as well. So
yeah, that is the only explanation for that. That is a strategy boo-boo. Yes. You do not want to be coming in for a splash and dash on the last two laps. That is not part of the plan. So if Dan Kirby has to do that, he could. Well, I think he's probably got Tom Lane covered with 34 seconds of course. So if he has to do a splash and dash, he's probably got a pit stop over second place at the moment. But yeah, that is several drivers that you've mentioned there missing out here. And it looks like 5th stop of the race for Jean-Michel Loriot. Not gone his way, has it, really?
No, it hasn't. This is Stuart Barge and Eugene Mazur battling it out for the GT3 AMs here. I think there may have been some extra stops that have ended up getting these guys closer together. Don't forget there was a lot of chaos, so if we've missed something, it could be the fact that these guys have been together at some point here. And unfortunately may have ended up getting caught up or whatever else, yellow flags and all that fancy jazzy stuff. So it's possible that they've ended up back together.
Oh, this is dangerous. Yeah. This is very dangerous.
Oh, no!
Oh, I called it. I've got to say. I said it was looking dangerous. It was looking very dangerous. And there we go. Another incident in turn 6. Such a complicated corner to get right. Let's have a look at a replay here. Looks like the GTP just goes in too hot. Look at him. He's going down the inside. It's not on. It's never on in a million years. And he gets collected because of it, and takes out the other GTP that he was racing with as well. I think that was the baby not have been racing position. So yeah, he would have been a back marker there, caught up. What's for position then?
Yeah, Louis Heskev and Golan Bank are battling it out in the Hypercar AM, so that was for position. In the meantime, they've decided to terminate the GT3 Pro AM battle with Eugene Mazur and Stuart Barge. These guys are still going in front, however, Barge was put against the wall, I believe, at one point there. So I'm hoping that wasn't somebody else involved, but I've got a funny feeling this is Kirby in this mix. It is Kirby. He's got, okay, so GT3 and leaders. He's got Leroux, who has just gone round. He's got Heskev and Benk from the Hypercar AMS battling away in front of him. So yeah, there's a lot to think about for Daniel Kirby.
I think obviously he's got such a massive gap to the guy, to Tom Lane behind in P2. He doesn't need to take any risks here. He just needs to stay, wait for the right time to get past, as he just did with the guys behind. But look at this.
Coming back.
Anything can happen here. Coming back on. Oh, that was a dangerous rejoin. But well, not really a lot of options of where to go. You carried by the momentum of the car back onto the track. But Kirby showing why he's the leader. Oh, look at that. Leroux trying to get through as well. And
am I missing something here?
It just looked as though you just were going to set it regardless there, wasn't he? He was just like, I don't... He's done it again. He's not fighting with Kirby here, it must be said. He's obviously looking... He's looked all race to be on pace with Kirby here, but they are not fighting for position. Leroux, at the moment, is a lap down on the leader. I wonder whether or not he wants to try, or he's going to try and make this overtaking. Whether Kirby's just going to give it up. If Kirby had said he would just give it up, he does not want to risk his race win here to battle this out with a lapped car. Maybe he wants to just give it up and let him through. Doesn't have to. Might be in his best interest. It's been an interesting one in terms of especially blue flags. I mean, I was hoping that maybe today was going to be the one day we didn't talk about blue flags, but it's been impossible, hasn't it? Look at what we've been witnessing today with the blue flags and things. But this is Watkins Glen, the nature of multi-class racing at Watkins Glen, because as wide a track as it is, and this is in a week that would be multi-class racing at Oulton Park, which sometimes looks easier than it is at Watkins Glen. A very wide track, but the racing line not that wide.
I don't get
very
this.
easy to make a mistake. What is Leroux doing here? Why does he need to make this move?
What's going on? All right, Kirby backs out. Fair play. But you're nearly, what you got, 8 seconds, I think, to Dahlgren? Yeah, you're not...
This is the final lap as well. I mean, he wants to be on the lead lap is the only thing I think of. He wants that extra lap of racing, which I can't knock him for, but at the same time, is it worth risking taking out the leader to do that? Kirby doesn't think so, because he backed out of it.
No, I would just stay behind him. Are we missing something?
Your race finishes a lap earlier as well if you can lose.
Yeah, you can just jump off.
Yeah. Definitely an entertaining race so far. Lots of discussion points. But this is Kirby coming round into the final sector now for the end of this race. It's been a doozy, you've got to say.
Yeah.
Maybe not for all the right reasons.
No, I don't get this. I'm expecting the penalties after this. I'm not going to lie. I'm expected to end up in the steward's booth anyway, but Dan Kirby is going to come across the line and take the win here at Watkins Glen. I really did not understand some of what was going on. Maybe I'm just in a different planet. But it looks like Wayne Atchinson's going to come across the line here, Steve, and take the victory.
Yeah, he's been in charge of this one in the AMS at the moment. It's 23-second gap to the guy behind, Brian Hall. But he hasn't really had much to do, Wayne Hutchinson here. He's been absolutely rapid and very clean and safe throughout, which he did do this previously as well, I believe. I think it might have been in Sebring. I'm not sure. It might have been Sebring, where he had a very, very good race. Yeah, it was. He won Long Beach and Sebring as well. So he's having a good season, Wayne Hutchinson. This is his 4th win.
Oh,
and JT Tammy
and Eugene Mazur, so they've already finished.
Yeah, they'll have already finished because they would have been lapped a long time ago. So, yeah. But who got winning the GT3s? It was, in fact, JT Tammy who took the lead after big mistakes from both Yuki and who was the other one? It was Vinicius who ended up in a bit of an incident, and then we've got Monsieur who has done very well, you've got to say, to come P1 in the AMS after Big Barge was really leading that one throughout the race, and Miller has ended up in P2 as well, so he's done a great job to get that at the death. Barge with I believe maybe his first podium as well.
It is Stuart Barge's first podium as he's going to come around it. Yeah.
So Peter Maher's not done too bad to get back 2 seconds within the podium as well after going off lap 1, turn 1, and then getting involved in a couple of other incidents as things went on throughout the race. It has been a definite battle, this race. That is the checkered flag. Fantastic racing all around. There's some great skill involved and some not so great skill involved, especially when it comes to overtaking or letting the lead cars through when you're blue flagged. Jean-Michel Leroux will be disappointed with his 5th place finish here, but Donald Kirby, P1, once more. That is his 3rd win, I believe, in the series, and he gives him a very commanding lead over his teammate, who finishes P6, Johnny Ryan, but means they take a commanding lead in the Constructors' Championship. Tom Lane with a great P2. I think that is maybe his best finish of the season. Well, cracking stuff. Dahlgren with a defensive masterclass there as well. Gets himself P4, but Timon Sudik rounds out the podium with a lovely P3. Great racing from him throughout. He was involved in a lot of action, it's got to be said. So, yeah, what do you think of that? I mean, what else can we say about this one? It's been drama-filled, action-packed, absolute brilliant racing, absolutely terrible racing at times as well at the same time. So, yeah. What else can we say about that one?
Well, I'm not really sure, but Johnny is finishing in 6th there. Wayne Hutchinson 7th, Brian Hall 8th. Schultz and Smith there will be finishing it up as well. We'll bring you the rest of the results in 2 seconds' time. Once done what it needs to be doing, and we will be back after to show you the rest of the results. But you know, the weirdest thing about that race, right, is it settled down quite a lot, right? And it was kind of a bit meh. You know what I mean? There was action, but it was just kind of ticking over, wasn't it? And then all of a sudden, the bomb went off in the last 12 laps. And everybody just, I don't know, maybe they all had the Red Bulls filling in, or what? I don't really know what the reasoning was for that situation. To be honest, it was a little bit bizarre, but you know, at the end of the day, it was what it was. It was just a little bit strange how it all went about. But there is the rest of the thing. Wayne Hutchinson 7th in the leader of the Hypercar Rams. Brian Hall, Alexander Schultz, and Ross Smith round out your top 10. And then on from that, George Angelidis, Jason Whitehead, Matthew Overton, Norm Graff, Philippe Enrique, Louis Heskev, and Gwilym Benk. I'm not going to lie, Enrique possibly could have some penalties coming. Benk might have, and Heskev might have as well. JT Tammy leads the GT3 Pros with James Walker and Brandon Gant coming up for the 1, 2, 3. And then we've got behind that as well Mark Sumferlap, Brandon McVeigh, Eugene Mazur winning the GT3 AMS, Yuri Takanashi in 24th, Steve Miller, Stuart Barge are the 1, 2, 3 in the AMS, Peter Maher, Ken Scott, Adam Gray, Jaime Zalecki, and these are the people who we've started losing after this as well. Vinicius Concalves, Steve Boyce, Mike Boyce, Jocelyn Petrie, John Meyer, and Joe Fallas there as well. But who would you like to have a chat with first, young man? You got Wayne Hutchinson or Dan Kirby?
Let's start with Dan. He was the overall winner. Let's go in a nice order from top to bottom. So Dan Kirby, a quiet race all around in the end for you, but at the end there, it was maybe a little bit tense. You had big battles going on all around you, but you played it cool, and you let a backmarker overtake you at the very death there as well. So we'll start there. That must have been a very considered effort from you not to bin it in the final lap, surely.
Yeah, it seemed like that other Peugeot had like new tires or something, so I just let him go and unlap himself. If he wants to do that, that's fine. Not a big deal. But yeah, it was a freaking crazy race.
Yeah, it definitely was. You should have seen what we saw, because obviously you only see the little section of track that you're on, but there was some absolute mayhem going on with some very suspect rejoins as well. For the start of the race, it seemed as though Leroux had your number. He was following you for a while, and then he got himself a drive-through penalty and disappeared. Are you worried now of this newcomer Leroux? He seems to have a great deal of pace, and in the future races, do you think he's going to challenge?
Yeah, I was curious what happened to him because yeah, he was really quick, just staying in my slipstream pretty much that whole like first stint, I think. And then Yeah, I don't know. It'll be nice to see how future races go. It's nice to have some good competition. It was really quick.
Definitely been lacking a little bit so far this season for you, competition-wise. You seem to be dominating this series. Are you confident that you're going to win this championship?
Oh, come on,
I don't
Dan.
know.
You're miles ahead. Let's not joke about it. Come on, you must be confident.
Yeah, I mean, if they can all go as decently as they did today, I think I got a pretty good shot. We'll see.
I mean,
I don't know.
things couldn't have really gone better for you today. Your main rival, your teammate Johnny Yan, ended up P6 in the end, and your next closest rival, Mia Rose, wasn't here today and has a penalty or 3 to take after killing you twice in Spa and again killing somebody else in Le Mans as well. So things are kind of falling into place for you without you really having to do much. But one thing I've got to point out here is that it's not that you're not doing much; it's that you're keeping it clean and safe. How much of that is the priority for you over the pace? But obviously your pace is there already. Is it safety first to you or pace first?
Yeah, especially at a track like this where you're going to have tons of multi-class traffic. It's just trying to manage traffic as safely as possible because I respect everybody's time. Like, you got to give them the respect for their race too. So I always just try and prioritize safety instead of like going for silly lunges and like, yeah.
We did see a lot of those silly lunges and some odd behaviour from lapped cars as well. What do you think about this? When you see a lapped car going to the inside and trying to overtake you, and it's not for position, they've got no chance of coming up and coming back round. What do you think about that as a racing driver?
Yeah, I mean, if they're like faster because I'm on worn tires or something, that's fair game. They can go for it, and then we'll see like in another couple corners whether I'm quicker or not, and then I'll just repass them if I am.
Yeah. Any advice for any of the drivers when it comes to navigating traffic before we let you go?
Do the passing on the exits, not entries. It's a lot safer to do it that way.
Definitely is some top advice there. But thank you very much for your time, Dan. We'll catch up with you next week, I'm sure, when you're probably going to win another race with that awesome pace of yours. But congratulations on your win.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Take care. Who have we got next then, James?
Well, we have got Mr. Wayne Hutchinson, the Hypercar AM winner here today. So Wayne is in the booth there. So welcome in, Wayne.
Hey, good afternoon.
Fantastic win for you once more there, Wayne. Brilliant job, gotta say. Very good. That's your 4th win of the season, the most in your category as well. It's going to help you jump Guillenbeck and Philip Enrique as well, and could possibly put you in the lead of the championship. How does that make you feel?
That was the hope coming into this. I didn't have a very good Le Mans and fell back a little bit, and so I had to have a good result here, and just had to come up with a strategy that would beat Philippe. He was too fast over one lap, so had to come up with a tire strategy and fuel strategy to outlast him. And then I think he probably had some issues too, so it made it easy in the end.
Well, before we go into his issues and tell you what happened to him, tell us about your strategy. What strategy did you go for and why?
Well, it was one of these races where you could stretch it and try to do a 3-stop with the Porsche, or go full power and do 4-stop. And through testing, I found I needed to go full power and take the extra stop. That was the fastest for me. But I also found that I could run mediums almost the whole way. So I actually triple stinted medium tires to start the race, and they were still very good at lap 42 or whatever it was when I stopped. And I thought about keeping them on, but I had such a big lead at that point. I went no risk route and put a new set on to finish it out.
Why not? Why not indeed? So on Philip Enrique, he actually got caught up in a bit of a tangle there in turn 9, I believe it was, that left-hander up the hill. And I think it was him, was it James, who did possibly one of the worst rejoins I've ever seen in my life, and ended up that incident ended up taking out 4 cars in total.
Yeah, and some lead cars as well. Not gonna lie, it wasn't too good from Philippe.
There's a big chance then that Felipe Enrique is going to end up with a bit of a penalty, further extending your gap now at the top of the championship. Do you think you can make that spot your own?
I think so. I mean, I don't know if I had enough here today to take over first place. I hope I did. The next race next month is at Motorsport, and it's another track very much like Watkins Glen. Just love that natural flowing, road courses, and I think the Porsche is well suited to them. So hopefully win number 5 next month.
Well, this is how you do it, Dan Kirby. If you're listening, this is how you show the confidence and put the fear of God into your opponents, letting them know that you're not scared of them. But fantastic win. It's the second. You've done it several times now, and by the looks of things, all of your race wins that I've seen have been very quiet races for you. Tell us, what is it about your race style? Is it all about keeping it safe and smooth, or do you really push each lap?
No, I'm quite a conservative driver, actually. I always have, the best tire wear of anybody in the race by far. So I don't overdrive the corners, and I will take my time, in traffic. I'm not going to take any risks, because you know what it's like racing online, right? Sometimes what the gap you see isn't really there. So, I'm conservative and patient, and it more often than not, it pays off.
Definitely works well for you. We'll wrap it up there. Congratulations once more on another fantastic win. One more of many to come, I'm sure. But thank you very much for your time, Wayne, and looking forward to speaking to you again in future.
Yeah, thank you guys. Great broadcast. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. So, James, have we got anybody else to interview?
Yes, you have got Missouri. Oh, excuse me. Oh, blimey. Try and press the button quick enough there as well. But here is Eugene for you, and let's see how Eugene got on there for his race.
So yeah, Eugene, you've won your category, the amateur in the GT3s. A fantastic win in the end. You were behind for a large portion of it as well, but you managed to get Stuart Barge in the death throes of the race. Talk us through that move first of all, and how you lined them up and got it done.
Oh, I don't know about that move. It was he got in the middle of hypercar shenanigans, I think, and this is how I was able to pass them.
They all count. They all count. If he gets up involved in some shenanigans and you get him, that still counts. But yeah. It's another win for you, and that's your second of the season. You're currently leading the championship. Again, I've asked this several people already. Are you going to make that spot your own? How do you feel about the remaining races?
Positive, but I have very dangerous competition, so I'm looking forward to racing with them. Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah, who do you feel is your main competitor in this class?
Peter is very dangerous, so I'm keeping a close eye on him. And then my usual guys, Stuart, Stephen Miller, in my class.
Yeah, definitely some quick boys around as well. And with these multi-class races, obviously, you didn't seem to be involved in any of the shenanigans that went on today, but there was a lot of shenanigans that went on today, but you kept your nose clean. How do you do that? Did you see any of the carnage out there on track today?
I expect it. my goal is to maybe drive a little slower, but let hypercars go around. So my goal was to survive, because if I race them and drive on the edge myself with hypercars around, most likely we all go off. So I tried to accommodate them.
If only more people had that kind of attitude today, maybe we won't be seeing as many penalties as we're going to see before the next race. The next one is Mosport, and I don't know a great deal about that track myself yet, but I will certainly do research if I'm doing it next week. How do you feel about that track, though? What do you think about it in terms of flow, and how's your pace there? Do you think you're going to win?
I don't remember, actually. It's my second season, so I have to look at my last season data. I'll just get practicing and without worrying much about my last year pace.
Yeah, so not bad, but practice, practice, practice. That's all you can really do. We'll wrap it up there. We're going to congratulate you on a fantastic win. It was definitely at the death. You definitely had to work hard for it today. So get the champagne out and enjoy a nice bubble bath.
Thank you very much.
You have a good one. Thank you, Eugene.
You too.
Oh, there you
So
go.
I think that is us wrapped up. I think we've got nobody left to interview. But yeah, it was an interesting one, to say the least, James, was it not?
Yeah, the last 12 laps kind of come alive a little bit. I'm expecting some penalties. I've got to be honest, and if there isn't, I would be, well, definitely surprised, I think, and definitely being the operative word. But I think overall the racing was okay. I think there needs to be some form of look back and from drivers specifically to say, yeah, I could have done this better. I should have done this better. But at the end of the day, you know, Dan Kirby come out on top. Wayne Hutchinson, Eugene Mazur, JT Tammy, all done a great job, all winning their classes. And that's really what they had to do. They all stayed out of trouble and wrapped it up for their classes. So incredible job from them.
Yeah, definitely. The newcomers today didn't go well for all of them. Leroux had a good race in the end, got himself a P5 finish, even with a big penalty, beating John Ewan. So that's a decent result from him. But some of the other guys, Ken Scott didn't have the greatest one today. You've got to say he was in the wars a bit. And we also had Louis Hesketh as well, who was not always keeping keeping on the black stuff. Yeah,
not always facing the right way. But there we go.
But there we go. I think we also had Ben Schub as well, who disappeared at some stage. I think maybe he was the driver that we lost with a disconnect at the early stages. So unfortunate for him. Hopefully he can get into the next one.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's you know, a definitive if he's going to carry on and join us. But overall, good race, Steve. Not too bad at all. Onwards and offwards we go, and on to the next one we go, buddy.
Very much looking forward to that, even if I'm just watching it from the sidelines. But it's been fantastic commentating with you once again. And unfortunately, we lost Dan halfway through, but it was great commentating with him once more. Yeah, I'll let you wrap it up. Take us home.
There we go, guys. That is at the end of the broadcast, and you got to admit it was an interesting one here as well. But for now, guys, we'll look forward to seeing you next time at Mosport. Don't forget, there's more to come on the JBB YouTube channel. We've got the IGP Fun Round season kickoff tomorrow, and also the Tanzo round 11 and 12 is also back once more tomorrow as well. But for now, guys, for myself, Steve Carabellis in the booth, and of course Dan Peebles, who we lost a little bit earlier on. For now, take care, have a great week, and you never know, we might see you on the track sometime. Good night.